Hey everybody, welcome to Hashurch. Hashurch episode 42. Can you believe we're already at episode 42? It's quite something. I'm going to send out the links here real quick to the crew. See if we can get them all sent out. Always doing these emails is always the busiest part of the morning for me, just getting all the invitations sent out. And I think I sent that invitation out properly, but it's possible that it just got erased. So I'm going to try again for the Facebook link. We'll see what happens here. Let's see if we can't make it happen. Internet sure slowed down here. Let's see. Did it mess up? Did it mess up? I think it did, guys. I think we're going to have to send those all over again. Of course, none of the... Well, you know what? Let's just do Hashurch just us. Forget everyone else. I'm going to have to turn off one of these computers. I thought I could get them both going. Let's see what we got here. Sorry about the delay, guys. But I try to have this all organized, but you wouldn't believe how damn near next to impossible it is to have organized, just to send out a simple link. But I'm glad you guys are all watching today, and we are at another milestone. We're 10 weeks away from a year, a whole year of Hashurch. Can you believe it? It's kind of blowing my mind, to be honest. It's all gone so fast. It's been quite something, quite amazing to share with all of you, to share with the amazing group of people that come in and share their time with us on Hashurch. It's really, it's awesome. All right, let's see if that one went through this time. I had it all set up, so I had 20 different names that I have to find each time. I don't actually have them saved, which would be, you know, quite smart. And I sent the email this morning. I went to send the message, and it just erased, and it didn't actually send. So hopefully we'll see some friends in here sooner than later. Oh, there's Etienne.
Good morning.
You got the backlit like me, buddy.
Yeah, we are backlit here. I'll have to work on that for a second. See if I can turn on the light.
I'm doing the same thing. Here in Winnipeg, Manitoba.
Good morning, Rob.
What's good about it?
Yeah, so yeah, we got a house up here for Chalice, and we're just kind of chill up in here in the mountains before we head down. I'll turn around so I'm not so backlit.
I'm excited to hear about Chalice for sure. It seems like it is the premier event for our scene these days.
Without a doubt, Dougie and them have really stepped up and have thrown the gauntlet down to everyone else. So I'm going to turn it over here on the side. Yeah, thousands of people. The weather has been really great. It wasn't too hot, wasn't too cold. It got warm for sure. There we go. It's a little better. I want to thank everybody for giving us the love. So many people gave us Hashurch shout-outs and a lot of love. So
yeah.
Thanks to everybody. Yeah, man. I mean, many people coming up to us and saying, "Hey, thanks for what you're doing. Thanks for Bubbleman and everybody what they're doing, and you know, keep up the good work." So, thanks everybody. Cool. And we're gonna go back and do it again today. Mila was in. Got to meet Scott Deppy from Mothership last night, and it's been quite an amazing trip, all in all, for everybody.
That's awesome, dude. I have to admit, I would love to be there. There's no doubt about it. I would love to be at Chalice right now. You guys are very lucky to be able to just, you know, be in the country that you're in right now for such an event. I would love it.
That's what we were talking about excitedly yesterday. It was, you know, sitting there 20 years ago, we were wondering, wow, it would be great if something like this could happen, and to actually be at an event 20 years later and it's actually happening. Police walk around, no one's giving a shit, everyone's dabbing everywhere, everyone's pressing rosin. Got to meet the guy from Soil Grown who invented rosin, and this is his stuff right here, which I'm starting off the morning dab with. Because shit's been amazing. Everyone's pressing fresh rosin on the spot and then whipping it out for you to see, and it's pressed from bud. So, yeah, seriously, it's an amazing scene. You're missing here, so are the other Canadian peeps, because everybody who's anybody in cannabis and hash seems to be here. We were hanging out with Frenchie Cannoli yesterday, and we're all in Aaron from DNA Seeds, and it's just been a shitload of fun seeing everybody and smoking with them and sampling all their wares, and again, eating Mothership. But and Todd's waking up, and everybody's kind of waking up in the house, and we'll be popping in throughout the time. So thanks a lot, everybody.
Did you see the Deppy in the gray piece? The skull?
Yeah, with the roses on the top.
Yeah, the Grateful Dead one was pretty amazing. We saw.
Oh, I never even saw that one yet.
No, we have not seen the green one. Deppy got in late last night, apparently. So we got, right as we were leaving, he just got in, and basically the mothership booth was tore down. Nobody was dabbing anymore. But so he hasn't really brought stuff out. So probably will be out today. So hey Nate, good to see you and dab with you yesterday as well.
Yeah, it was awesome. I ran into Etienne under one of the misting areas that Hitman had put up, which was a lifesaver in the middle of the heat. There's a big covered area that's misting everybody with some table set up you could dab at. I run into Etienne and Rob Clark and Todd and Kenny from Trichome, and it was quite the crowd that we were dabbing with.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but yeah, Marcus, you got to make for sure next year you got to be here.
Well, dude, you know I would love to make it. I'm absolutely bummed that I can't, but it's just that U.S. border. You know, I don't want to do anything. Well, I mean, for example, if you guys want to hear a quick Chalice nightmare story, my friend William from the Growroom, he has these beautiful hats. They're hand-painted, and they're just, I mean, they're exceptional. The quality of them is really great, and the paintings are all one of a kind. And so he had 13 of these hats custom-painted to bring to Chalice so that he could sell them and just pay for his tickets. And I guess, you know, U.S. Customs had a whole other plan. They treated them like terrorists, took them in, arrested them. You know, went through their phones, went through all their stuff, said that they had pot leaves and they were going to sell pot stuff. And basically they got driven in a police car to the plane, walked up by the police, passports given to the stewardesses and told, give them their passports when you land in Brazil. So William is super bummed this morning. I talked to him just briefly, and I felt really bad for him too. You know, it's unfortunate that we're still not there quite yet. You know, it's amazing that an event like Chalice can happen, but boy, there's still like these entry points into the country to try and get in, and that's where they're keeping a lot of us out, unfortunately. So I was sad to hear that.
There are very few places like where we are having Chalice too. I mean, there's only a handful of places in the United States that this could even happen at, if even that many. So to have that many people sitting around getting high, sharing, and no one being harassed or shaken down, they're only shaking you down at the front door for alcohol. They're just looking for alcohol. So we're all cool with that because we heard the security was complaining because nobody was drunk and fighting, and they didn't really have much to do. They were bored because all the stoners were relaxed and chill. So, way to go, Stoner.
That's awesome. Hey, welcome, Mark.
I ran into Jen Doe in the backstage area, and she rolled a pure hash joint that was fatter than this joint here. And it was her and Bobby Nuggs that were masterminding the whole thing, and it hit like a champ. So kudos, Jen, if you're watching. It was amazing.
Yeah, Jen, if you're out there, we need to hook up. We'll be out there today.
She contacted me yesterday and said that she might contact Hashurch today through Weed Maps or something.
Yeah, we were trying to get that done. I couldn't get a hold of Dougie, and the internet at that venue is just really bad. So I'm not sure if it's going to come through, but we're going to try once we get down there to maybe jump in the backstage area and come together with a couple different of us. So.
Well, that'd be cool. It's beautiful. I guess any amount that we can see, we're happy to see. I've been enjoying the pictures and enjoying all the glass, and man, we need more great events like that.
All the glass.
Yeah, I plan to Periscope a little bit more today, walking around to show it off. So if anybody's out there on Periscope, make sure to tune in.
Yep, I was periscoping too. ATN 420 on Periscope. I'll be also periscoping throughout the day because just so much cool stuff going on and everything's just really popping off. I mean, it's.
So Etienne,
Got to give much love to Doug from Hitman Glass. I mean, I know he had a hard time last year, but he really got it together this year and has really pulled off an event.
besides the Cuban, what was your favorite hash you ran into yesterday, Etienne?
Ooh, there were quite a few. The rosins were quite amazing. I have to say, this stuff from Soil Grown, the terps in it, the way that he is, as he says, he's pressing 3 buds at a time to make this stuff. Yeah, and it retails for approximately $90 a gram, I'm told. And this stuff is fire. I mean, honestly, real fire. And I had some of Frenchie's pressed hash, which was amazeballs. So I mean, it's hard to just pick one. There's just so much diverse, wonderful cannabis, and the diversity of rosin that's out there. Oh yeah, it's doing the spoiled stuff too, for sure. Got the terp.
This is the raw hashish by the Raw Gardener. This is their Pineapple 73.
Nice.
They had some amazing looking hash. Really blonde. This is another one that I got from them. This is the, let's see here, the Forum Cookies 73. I don't want to spill it.
Don't be spilling the 73, Nick.
Yeah, I had some nice 73 yesterday. Can't remember the guy's name. They're actually here in Hashurch. We got to burn with multiple Hashurch members yesterday. He had a very nice Klein, and we hit this beautiful dry seed. In fact, it's right here.
You're not spilling that, though.
Yeah, no. This stuff is way too sticky.
Hashurch celebrities at Chalice, hey? Just got people running up to you with hash.
It's really interesting. I'm not used to having people come up to me, and quite a few people just come up just to say hey. Some wanted to smoke with us, but people were being so cool, so respectful, so thank you guys so much. You have a very large audience there, Mr. Bubbleman, for your site, needless to say. People were just giving you nothing but love as well, so know that you've been much appreciated. And Horatio, people want to try your shit too. And Mark, your name's been dropped as well, so... When are you going to get down here, Horatio?
Nobody had anything nice to say.
All nice. I get messages about all of you guys all the time. So one thing I will urge you guys to do, which you might not be used to doing, and I'm not saying that you don't or do it, but one thing is that the reason this is a cool thing is because we communicate. We keep the chat open. It's not just us talking. We're involving the people that are watching. So when people message you or text you through your social media and they have a question, I definitely urge you to go out of your way and answer that question. I know it's a pain in the ass a lot of times when you start getting a lot of questions, but keeping the dialogue going is what's going to keep people really keep them interested. I mean, people want to be a part of things, and if they can't be a part of things, then it's not quite as fun. So that's why I've got the chat open right now. Hillbilly Hip Stage is saying for real. Jason Cohen, Hashurch live. I won't say what Mr. Fucker just said, but it was a bit rude. Check out my purple bubble.
Retentive.
Yeah, he might be a little retentive there. He's Mr. Fucker. That's an interesting name. Not quite as bad as Moldy Turds, but it's interesting what the names people choose for themselves when they decide that they're going to go represent themselves on the internet. And welcome, Horatio and Mark Scialdone, to the chat room today. Nice to see you.
I was just remembering Slurpin' My Dick from the first days, and like one of the first names that got shouted out, and I saw the name today, and I was like, that guy still has that name? That's amazing.
Well, listen. Maybe we can help out the grow room for the situation that they went through. I would love to get their hats that these guys have for sale that they were going to sell at Chalice. It would be really great to still give that opportunity to people. I don't know if William is interested in that. He is sitting in chat. Oh, don't be sorry, Mr. Fucker. I thought it was hilarious. I would just tell William that if he wants us to, we will gladly auction off his hats through Hashurch, or we will help get these hats sold, because honestly, they're wicked fucking hats. I'm telling you, they're really high quality, nice hats. And with the hand painted version, he's got these little guys like holding torches, and he's got them holding buds and seeds, and they're really cool hats. So I'll see if he wants to hit me up later with that, and we'll try and find a way to get them to get those hats moved for them. All right, there we go. We need, yes, Growroom says we need. So perhaps I can get those pictures and I'll post them in Hashurch, and we'll do a little Growroom hat auction. It would be cool to do an auction so people bid rather than just put them for a certain price, because A, the Growroom guys put a lot of money into flying to the US, and by getting turned around and sent back to Brazil, that was like a double, triple hit for them. So those are our Brazilian family. We're going to take care of those guys. We're going to help move those hats. Fuck, I'll bid on one of those hats. There's a couple that I like. The lion one, he had one that was like a Lion of Judah kind of bud character. Very cool.
I'll bid.
Since when are hats against the law?
Since when you put a pot leaf on them, of course.
That's bullshit.
You think?
Come on.
Wait,
Get an attorney on that thing. They could make a lot of money with that. That's bullshit.
Yeah, Chicago, man. Chicago. They don't fuck around.
I've got a question for you, Dr. Mark. This week, I guess it's been all about the race to CBN, and obviously a lot of people are like, well, there's no problem creating CBN, it's just called crap. But creating concentrated CBN to actually produce an effect is actually hard. For someone like me who's a very strong-willed person, it doesn't make me go to sleep just having black goo to dab. I've been trying to concentrate it and refine out of, you could say, the dark mass, all of the things possible that interfere with that concentration, because people say they get headaches, people say they still barf, and I know those are usually contaminants. But one of my concerns, I remember a long time ago you mentioning prolonged heating of cannabinoids can cause their polymerization. And as I keep getting this more and more concentrated thing I'm hoping to be CBN that I'll eat at the end of the day, I find that for something that is completely decarboxylated, the more refined the more it behaves like a polymer. It's just more and more stable to the point I'm like, I don't know if people should be eating this. Maybe this isn't CBN. Maybe this is cannabinoid plastic.
Yeah. So actually reported that he could quantitatively convert THC directly to CBN by treating it with sulfur. Again, sulfur is a pretty good. It's an oxidation that needs to happen. I mean, in going from the methyl cyclohexene ring to the fully aromatic ring, the top piece of the chicken wire when you're looking at the structure, in order for that to happen, something has to accept the hydrogen molecule that's given off in that oxidation process. Hydrogen oxidizing agent, but it makes, as everyone knows, hydrogen sulfide, which is the rotten egg smell, so no one wants to treat their cannabis with sulfur. But what you can do, I think, is that if you heat up a solution of THC and you bubble air in, the oxygen in air acts a lot like sulfur. It'll eventually do it at a much slower rate, but you can certainly quantitatively convert all of the THC to CBN if you desire to do it with air. Air will do it. It'll just take a long time and probably a higher temperature than sulfur would, but you don't want to add sulfur. And there's probably other ways that you can do it. Again, this compounds that El Soli reported as being new cannabinoids that were isolated. I believe that those are the intermediates in between THC and CBN, and that those are formed microbially from just microbes that exist ubiquitously in nature. That doesn't mean that your weed's contaminated or anything. These are just bugs that are all around us that exist on our skin, exist everywhere. We live in a microbial world, and as soon as you harvest the plant, the degradation of a lot of those molecules starts to happen at a slow rate. You could increase the rate by just heating it up, or again, micro ubiquitous nature.
Oh, are we frozen? Did Mark freeze up?
I think Mark did freeze up.
Okay, I just wanted to welcome Barry into the room, Casey, and welcome William into the room from Growroom, who we were talking about earlier. I thought we could invite him in just so, not to go on about the negative and talk about the border, because we know how much they suck, but just to sort of turn it around into a positive. Let everyone know a little bit about Growroom, and let everyone know where they can start bidding on these hats. We can set up a little bidding auction. And I had to mute you there, William. Sorry, your mic was reverberating. Oh! All right. We good, guys? I also... yes, yeah, we hear you.
Yeah, that sucked, man. We took the plane here. We went to America, and then he has seen my tattoo, and he started asking if I grew marijuana, if I smoke marijuana, and we had a box with 25 T-shirts from Growroom that I wanted to give some people and to sell some. And then they asked if I smoke. I said, yeah, sometimes. And when was the last time you smoked? And I told, yeah, last week. And then he opened our luggage, and my laptop is full of stickers from many brands with leaves and don't smoke cheap pot. And he told, hey, everything related here to cannabis. Where are you going? We are going to a festival. Oh, do you want to sell your stuff at the festival? No, we just want to give people. Yeah, and then they took our mobile, searched everything, found pictures that we were smoking, and yeah, and then they brought us to a small room. We stayed there like 16 hours, and yeah, and to make everything shorter, yeah, they sent us back to Brazil. We wanted to show the hats at Chalice because it's also an art festival. We thought it would be perfect for there. Yeah. But we was unable to reach Los Angeles, and now we are here with the hats and with a bill to pay for the tickets.
Yeah, that sucks, dude. That's what happens to me when I try to go to the U.S. as well. I used to think it was my long hair, but then I think they just saw it in my eyes. Or perhaps it was my felony records. I don't know. But I'm sorry to hear that happened to you. And do you have any of those hats there that you can show?
Oh, you can check at growroom.net/caus with U. C-A-U-S.
Oh, okay. So let's repeat that again. That is growroom.net or .com?
.net.
Yes, growroom.net/caus.
Yes, C-A-U-S.
C-A-U-S. Okay, awesome. I'll try to put that as well into the chat room that everyone's watching right now. We have 495 people paying attention, so Growroom.
One of the hats is this one, but the collection that we made, it's like yours. It's more the style of yours, and as you told already, different with the bomb, with the torch, with the seed germinating.
All right.
And
Johnny M in chat says, don't do illegal activity in the U.S. and you won't be denied. And I'm just saying, well, that's not really the truth. All you have to do is tell them at the border that you smoke cannabis, and that's enough that's enough for them at the U.S. border, believe it or not, to deny you entry into the country if you tell them. We had a big news story on this that happened because this woman, I think she was like a news anchor, or she was a pretty straight mainstream person, but she went through the border and her job dictated that she goes over the border. This was big news in BC about maybe 6 months ago. And they just randomly asked her if she'd ever smoked pot, and she said yes. She didn't say she smoked pot. She just said she had smoked pot. And that dude stamped her denied, and basically, it was pretty trippy because the situation was that in the same week, our future Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, he had said that he had smoked pot in the past. And so what people were wondering was, now that he had admitted that on TV in an interview, would the U.S. deem him unworthy and stop allowing him to go into the country? Because he's literally going to be like our Prime Minister, you know, in a very short period of time. It's very likely anyway. It would be interesting to see if they would give the rule to him like that as well, the way they would to any other person.
Mark,
Yes,
We
sir.
have also a lot of
Dude, we don't even keep our presidents out of office when they admit to smoking weed. I can't imagine we're going to stop your prime minister from coming over because he said he had some youthful indiscretions.
I know. I can't imagine it either. But yet they did it to this woman who was not connected in any way, shape, or form to, like, you know, what they would deem, you know.
Didn't hear any of that.
Yeah, you're live, Stu.
You didn't hear?
I'm not live. My mute's mic.
I'm watching your voice go up and down. And
Can you hear me, Todd?
I'll mute. Yeah, that's the list.
We don't even keep.
All right, William, show your picture there. That's beautiful. Is that by the same artist? My mute's mic'd, Etienne. My mute is mic'd.
Yeah, sorry. We have
I
like
didn't mic your mute.
20 canvas like this, bigger and smaller too. This one is painted with fluor ink, so it glows in the dark.
Nice.
And very nice work, but we couldn't show because of the guys on the board, the pigs.
Oh yeah, very nice. Sorry that happened. That just sucks. And I would say that the same thing would definitely happen in Canada. We're pretty much no different. Our border is pretty rough.
I think the key lesson from this is to send your stuff in advance and then hit the border like a normal tourist and don't ever mention cannabis.
This is definitely the good way to do it. However, William has the words Growroom tattooed right on his knuckles.
Yeah.
He might have to maybe use some of that L'Oreal cover-up for the border.
This, I pretend it says something different.
It is a crazy situation, you know, guys, in the sense that I feel like we're on this locomotive, like traveling, blowing away all the rules that they're trying to keep us down with, and yet, you know, you look over your shoulder every once in a while and you see these things that are still happening that are just, I mean, what's the purpose to do that to someone? What's the purpose to create that much stress and anxiety, and why do you have to put them in a little room for 16 hours, and just the whole sort of psychological ramifications? I've always thought of the energy energy seems to not ever dissipate or be killed, if you will. Energy continues on, and I wonder, the energy of prayer, I always wondered when religion, you know, sure, it was to control people, but it seemed like there was also a level of that energy of prayer, and the people praying kind of thinking they know where it's going, but the people creating it kind of, you know, taking that energy. And it's just a bummer that people would want to produce stress and anxiety in the world. It seems as though demons are in charge of this agenda, and that they feed on human anguish like junkies feed on heroin.
Yeah. There was a police guy that stayed like 12 hours following our work. He could be doing something Darrin really worked searching for a terrorist, or I don't know, for a real criminal, for someone that's really dangerous, not for someone with art.
You mean like the head of the Mexican cartel, El Guapo? Chapo or whatever his name is? The dude that just escaped federal maximum penitentiary in Mexico? You mean that, like that guy? Oh,
yeah, maybe. Maybe, but definitely not persons like us that are inoffensive.
You know what, William? I wanted to go to Chalice so bad as well. I love the idea. I've been talking to Doug about it. He asked if I wanted to do some judging for it some months ago, and I was honored and thought, man, this is like the first time, I think it was the first time anyone asked me to do some judging. So I was like, fuck yeah, I'll check this out. But I just got paranoid, and not so much paranoid like what they did to you, because to me, I was getting used to that. I thought, well, that's not so bad, just getting held in a room for 20 hours and then sent away. My worry later on in life became that they would not let you go. Like that they were like, oh, geez, yeah, we've got sealed indictments for you. You've been showing people how to make hash in all the wrong states. Like, we got a nice little cozy cage for you for like a 10 spot. And that was my paranoia all the time of like, I don't feel that in any other country that I visit, but I've always felt it at the U.S. border, the strangest, like, this weird in-between land where you have zero rights, and yeah, you really, it's a full form of control. It's scary to have someone be that in control of you.
Yeah, and when something happens to me, I faced already a lot of oppression in Brazil, because I am one of the first organizers of the marijuana march. We have already faced a lot of problems with the marijuana march in the past. It was illegal. We struggle here. We bring the case until the Supreme Court, and we won the right. So I was almost arrested many times, also because the cup that I organized in Brazil. But I wasn't in my country. In my country, I know the laws. I know whom I can call, lawyers to help me. But I was in America, another language, another law, and I couldn't call anyone. So it was really one of my worst experience in life, man. I don't know if I want also to come back to America. I don't think I have lost my visa, but they thought that I can become a weaver and come back, but I don't know. I think I will go to Uruguay. It's here beside Brazil, and maybe there I can relax.
Well, I would say don't give up on America, because that's what just customs wants you to do. So it's like, I personally won't give up on America. Some of my best friends live in America, and there's all sorts of amazing events and, you know, places that I want to spend time in America. I'm just kind of waiting for enough states to adopt a medical cannabis program and eventually a recreational medical cannabis program. And then I you know, once the FDA is forced by the hand, or the DEA is forced by the hand of the government, the federal government flipping and allowing cannabis federally, they'll have to reclassify it. And it won't, once they do that, you know, if they do it the best way possible, which, you know, why not? Like, why not go back to being that greatest country on earth type of thing, and just being like, lead by example, and be like, let everyone out of jail who has a cannabis conviction, fucking wipe all the records for all the people that have cannabis. What's that?
So, I just went on this topic. Dr. Dina has a booth, and she has something called the commissary challenge going on. So you can go and donate $3 for a slushie, which is amazing in the 95-degree weather, and all the proceeds go to commissary bills for lifetime cannabis charges, so lifetime sentences for cannabis crimes.
Well, that's incredible. That's
pretty
incredible.
amazing.
Doing that. Where can people that are watching Hashurch find out about a website or a link? Or is that
You know,
just?
I did not see a link. I'm sure Dr. Dina has something on her website. I'll try to get some more information about it and post it in the Facebook Hashurch page.
Yeah, tell her. I mean, I can contact her as well. But if you see her today, let her know that we'd love to hear more about that, because I think that's a pretty awesome thing right there. People might not know about the U.S. prison system and the privatization of the prison system is that they are concrete slave ships that hold a massive workforce, 2 million strong, 8 to 10 hours a day, getting paid pennies on the dollar. The amount of profit margin that produces, and then how twisted it is, the commissaries, the things that Nick's talking about, the things that you would spend money on, are extremely inflated and cost a lot. So they pay them pennies, but then they get all that money, a lot of it back, by selling them things at an inflated price. It's really a terrible system. It should be exposed, and it should be changed. I mean, geez. That's William showing there. Growroom.net cows. Excellent. Thank you, William. That's a great way to do that. He's thinking. Well, I still wish I was at Chalice with all of you guys. I'm telling you, it doesn't help when guys like Todd are like, oh yeah, anytime you come to the U.S., you can hang out at my place. And then he's like taking epic pictures off his deck every day. And I'm seeing them like, oh, I can't go to the U.S. But don't give up on the U.S., William. It's not the U.S. who denied you. It was just customs. Just a couple of dudes.
Yeah, man, I love the U.S. I have many friends in U.S. I have been there for 5 times already, but you really get scared. I have been strong for too long, but sometimes when that happens to you, yeah, you get a little bit weak. But yeah, I will get better.
Well, it makes us stronger, I'll tell you. It's, I mean, it would be interesting one day if we had no fight, what we would do. Like if we were just allowed everything the way we wanted it, it would be. I guess they call it a utopian living, but.
Well, that's kind of what we're seeing here at Chalice. Is what we were talking about earlier. Is that there is a freedom to be, and everybody is allowed to be. You're being shaken down for alcohol, which is the complete opposite of every other venue we go to. We get shaken down as we all become professional packers and stashers, you know, as we go to any event, basically, for marijuana in the past. So to actually to go in freely and not be harassed and shaken down was quite refreshing to be here in California, and then secondly in the United States on top of it. You know, it's quite an amazing expression and freedom, and we elders are kind of sitting back and watching with excitement to see what is happening and how responsible these generations are going to handle it, and they're doing pretty well.
Absolutely. Oh, someone needs to, I like that you have the bong in front of you, you got the joint lit. You remind me of my friend Kittis, who every time he comes up to take a dab, he's got a big spliff in his mouth. And usually, almost every time, right before he takes the dab, he'll be like, all right. Coming up to the stem of the mouthpiece of the bong, exhaling his, you know, that's just hardcore in the best of ways. For those of you that don't know about Kittis, check out his music on iTunes or Spotify or even YouTube, Kiddus, and then the letter I in capitals. He's great. Some of my favorites, Salvation, Topsy Turvy World, what's the one? Spiritual Warriors. Spiritual Warriors. That's the track right there. So we had to kick someone out of chat. He was being pretty negative. It was getting pretty bad. He was using negative, derogatory curse words and such.
No need for any of that madness now. We're being respectful.
Yeah, but you know what? I swear those are the only people I ever block. And then in 2 months, some guy will be like, hey, man, why am I blocked on YouTube? I'm guessing bipolar or something. And I'll be like, I don't know. Like, were you calling everyone faggots and, like, telling us all that you wanted to kill us and, like, saying shit like that? No, man, I swear I would never do that. And I'm like, well, that's weird because I'm pretty sure the only people I block and delete out of the chat room are generally hating hard. We'll see.
And on top of that, you're the only one who can ban. It's not like anybody else can. You know what I'm saying?
No, exactly. And I'm not going through there just banning people for no reason. I don't want to be banning people at all. In fact, I prefer having the conversation. And, you know, a while back I had a conversation on Periscope. Thanks, Todd, for turning me on to that again. And it ended up being a guy in the room. He wasn't really being a hater, but let's just say he was fully not supportive. And he questioned every single thing I said. And as, you know, I told him, hey, you know, get on your computer, start Googling some of these things. And he started asking questions. At first, he just thought we were all insane and, oh, you guys are just smoking blah, 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 and you're just all high. And I eventually sort of started explaining the medicinal benefits and the recreational benefits and even the preventative benefits. And as he started Googling and checking things out, I mean, we really turned this guy's mind around, and not to mention, his questions made the Periscope actually a value of knowledge, because I would have never thought to say those things in a room full of people that already agreed with them. So,
well, you're never going to make everybody happy anyway. You're doing the best you can with what you got, so much respect, man.
Yeah, that's it. Do the best you can. I think that's one of the 4 agreements. Manuel Ruiz, I think his name is. You ever read the 4 agreements, guys? Really great. Great, easy thing to follow. I think it's, let's see, it's don't take things personally, which is a really hard one to do, but it creates most of the drama in your life. Be impeccable with your word, which is super hard too, because we always tend to, like even earlier we were bitching about Canada Customs. That's not really being, or U.S. Customs. It's not really being impeccable with your word. Don't take things personally. Be impeccable with your word. Do your best. I can't remember what the 4th one is, but look it up. Google the 4 agreements. They're there. I think it might be
Rob
time.
says never eat anything larger than your head.
What's that?
Rob says don't eat anything larger than your head.
You know what? I imagine the first time he said that, he was so high on acid.
And he never imagined what a cow looked like when he was eating his burger, I guess, because last time I checked, it's slightly larger than his head.
I actually ripped off the Fireside Theater for that.
Yeah. Should have edited their mistakes, Rob. Well, everything's bigger than my head.
I like William's got the good style with the showing his addresses. We got to get on that shit. Check us out. There's all sorts of different ways to check the people out in this chat. They all have Instagrams and Facebooks and Twitter feeds. And, you know, if you guys want to let everyone know what those are, why not? Now's as good as a time as any. We'll start with Casey, then Etienne, then Horatio.
Yeah,
Marcus, thank you for the support that you are giving us. I really appreciate it. You are the I really appreciate it. I got to leave now because I got to do some stuff here at home.
Okay.
But thank you so much, bro. Thank you so much. Thank you, the support from everybody. Thank you.
Yeah, man. We'll talk soon, and we'll get that link up so everyone can auction off those hats and get some good dollars back in your pocket. These are killer hats.
Yeah. Let's make it. I will let you know. I will talk to you later so we can organize this auction, and we will let everybody know about the auction. Thank you for the support again, Marcus.
Awesome, man. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Right. Now we'll start with Casey, Etienne, and then Horatio. Share your Instagrams and such so people can know where to find you.
Yeah, you can find on Instagram True Canna Genetics and also OCD.labs. So yeah, check me out on Instagram with those, and also more in-depth throws on forums like Canna Collective and IC Mag. Yeah, it's me.
Awesome.
I am ATN420, which is the letters ATN420 on Instagram, Periscope, and Facebook. And that's how you can reach me. Much love.
You can find me on Instagram at HDC_LHO. And Facebook, just start trying to spell Horatio with an H and an O, and it'll put the rest together. I see a lot of people spelling it H-E-R, and I'm like, you're not going to find me Horatio. But everyone will eventually get it.
Perfect. Well, it's your name is right there under your video, Horatio Delbert, spelt and everything. What about you, Mr. Mark?
Mark Scialdone. I'm on Facebook, but you can email me at mark@vapeholdings.com. It's my new
Perfect.
employer.
So you're going to be getting some emails. Nick. Nick, what do we? How do we get a hold of you? How do they see you, Nick? How do they find you? Instagrams and Facebooks and all that sort of thing.
I'm at NB_cannabis. Same thing. Facebook /Nick Bradley Cannabis, no spaces.
All right, and Todd, Mr. Todd, he's got his mouth full, but he can tell us.
You can find my website at hemp.xxx. You can find me on Twitter at hempxxx, on Instagram at hempxxx, and if you're looking for us on Facebook, it's just facebook.com/hemphelps. Pretty easy stuff. And also, while I'm here, Kenny can be found at Trichrome Technologies on Instagram. And Rob's new Instagram is Cannabis EVO for Cannabis Evolution. Yes, we'll be adding more photos from the book Cannabis Evolution and Ethnobotany as soon as I'm not so stoned.
Yes, and you can also go and like their Facebook pages, Trichome Technologies and Robert Connell Clark. Go give them some love. And I can be found at BC Bubbleman on Instagram and Twitter. Bubbleman on Facebook.
Turn on your volume, though, because I don't have my volume on. Leave your volume on. It shouldn't.
Hey!
Oh.
I had no idea you were there, Kay.
Hey, Mark, how are you? How's your day?
Very good. You know, I was just going to say when Todd said, and Kay can be found, I was going to say, well, he should be found in Hashurch. That's where Kay should be found.
I am sitting in first thing this morning.
And he can often be found next to me, so...
You guys have the good squad over there this morning, don't you?
No doubt.
Oh, yeah, this is not bad at all.
That's awesome. Well, it's nice that you guys can come in and share the vibes, you know, with the 600-plus Hashurchers that seem to tune in every week and want to listen to the random things that we say.
We haven't even used the pool table yet.
Well, I'm sure that's going to happen.
Probably not, considering we're checking out at 11. We spend all our time dabbing and talking. What geeks are we, you know?
Well, there's importance in dabbing and talking. You know, it's funny because I think really that's all Hashurch is.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
People are saying love, Kay, and kids saying peace.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for providing this forum, Mark. It's really incredible to watch.
Well, you know what? Everyone thanks me all the time, but I have to say it's really all of you guys that people are tuning in for. Like, I have a channel, and I have videos that's just me, but Hashurch is definitely... I always knew that I was doing the YouTube video for a reason. I just didn't know exactly what reason it was for. And when I saw that it could be either, like, there were two options. I could take the traction, you know, keep it to myself and build it on my own brand and label, or I could maybe do something a little bit bigger and better, and hopefully everyone will be down for it. And it's, you know, look at all of you guys tuning in every week for this. It's what makes it what it is, that's for sure.
You're providing a public service, and the country of Canada should be subsidizing you.
They subsidize both the union and the culture high. Thank you very much.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I am now sitting in the city that I was born in, Winnipeg, Manitoba.
Oh, yeah.
In St. Boniface. I can actually see the hospital that I was born in right there. Boom, there it is. It's got the cross on it. It's a very French part of Manitoba that I'm in right now. In Winnipeg, sorry, St. Boniface. Right by the river at the Forks. This is where it all happened for me.
Oh, God.
This is where I got turned on to cannabis. This is where I did my hemp activism. This is where I learned how to grow cannabis and learned how to grow mushrooms, and really where I met my mentor, Ron Hickey, who you can also check out on Facebook, the Maniac, who, yeah, just really, you'd never know the things that I did in this city that could have been done. Like, it just seems like a kind of a quiet city, but
Tell
not.
us one story, Mark. Come on, tell us one story. Your youthful days.
There's so many. There's so many. You know, when I met Ron, I was maybe 17, and I went to his hydroponics store. And this was in a time, we're in the Bible Belt here. This was in a time, we might as well have been in like Oklahoma. You just did not talk about cannabis openly. There was one other grow store owned by this guy, Bob, who very well may still own the grow store here. And he would not talk cannabis. He would talk tomatoes, and he would kick anyone out that even mentioned cannabis. Ron was the opposite. Ron was a cannabis warrior. When I met Ron, he had already done 6.5 years in a federal prison for cannabis. He did get caught with hundreds of pounds, and even the DEA themselves came up and were in his court case. And when they brought out a chunk of the, I think it was 800 pounds or something, and I think they wheeled out 100 or something, and Ron will never forget it. They gave away gas masks to the jurors because they said it was so strong that the smell of it might get the jurors high. So he was sitting there in the chair while they all wore gas masks, and this weed got brought out, and then of course Ron, being Ron, was just like, and it made the courtroom smell so good, Mark. I felt better about the whole situation. It made me laugh. So Ron, when I first went to meet Ron at his grow store, and I was having problems with my plants, and someone said, "Oh, there's a guy that'll help with that." There was no internet at the time to go look up grow stuff. There was just books. They were expensive. They didn't really, you know, you could read them, and they were like, "Whoo, fuck, like I don't know about this." And so I went to Ron's as a kid, you can imagine, and basically started talking about tomatoes, and he was just like, "Tomatoes?" Like, boom, brought me down to his basement in the hydro store. He was like, "Look, you and I both know what we're talking about, so let's just get down to it." And I'm just like, okay, like I'll take a leap with this guy. Ron, how he learned how to grow, his mentor was this kind of mad scientist guy that worked at the zoo in Winnipeg years ago in the reptile cage. He took care of the alligators and stuff. Ron got into some trouble as a kid, and he got an option from the courts to either go to juvie or to be taken into a program, and the program that he was taken into was to go clean, you know, alligator shit for this scientist guy. Well, one day Ron's trying to get the alligator back in its cage, and it wrestles with him, and they roll on the floor, and he rolls through a fake wall, and all he sees is bright lights. Yeah, the guy was growing at the zoo. He had a full, like, hidden section growing, and so Ron, as a kid, was given another choice. You can talk about this and tell on me and cause a bunch of problems for me, or I can mentor you and teach you about this. And this guy was like a mad scientist, like doing all sorts of trippy shit, breeding plants and doing all sorts of wild shit. Nothing less than that could be the story for how Ron learned how to grow cannabis. I will try to get him onto Hashurch one day because nobody can tell a story like Ron. 11 years in a federal prison for cannabis, and still the most positive, like, outspoken cannabis warrior that you could ever meet across. Badass dude for sure. I see Rick DeLisi's in the room there. What's up, brother? Free DeLisi. Go check that out. Google that shit. Go sign that petition. That's another nightmare story of a man who's already served 27 years in prison and has 60 plus more to go under the current laws. I think, and then we could go on forever, couldn't we? Then I'm reminded of this woman who just recently had her son taken away. Was her name Shona? Yeah, my goodness. Now they want to give her 30 years. And they took her son away and put him in Child Protective Services, I think.
You know what's crazy? She invented, like, the first, like, I knew her from, she was vaporizing and condensing the oil and using it to treat herself. And, like, that's how I knew her when I was looking up solventless techniques. And, like, that's where a lot of people in the community know her from Googling techniques to make hash oil naturally. Yeah. So, like, she meant a lot to a lot of people in the beginning. And now it's like, what? The lady that told me how to condense on the vape globe is going to major jail, but she's not even really a hash producer.
Well, not only just going to, here's the thing, triple hit. She's going to jail. She's not going to be able to treat her disease, so she's going to get very sick and potentially die. And her son was taken away from her. It seems like a pretty...
How much is her bond right now? She's in jail on... Is she in because she can't get her bond, or is she in jail because she hasn't been sentenced yet? Why don't we look into this, man? We could start a GoFundMe or something to get her fucking bond raised, or find some people that could raise money if she doesn't have bond money.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, Todd. Exactly.
She doesn't have bond money right now?
Yep. I guess there's a lot of people that don't, and this is the situation. There's another guy who just...
I don't know, though, if that's true. Why don't we look into it? Because, you know what, that just sounds a little off to me, you know? I mean... God knows I've been bonded out enough times, but, you know, why don't we look into it? I think we should research this. And I don't think we should talk about that she got 30 years. Last time I checked...
Well, no, that they wanted to give her 30 years. She hasn't even gone to court yet, I heard.
No, I know. I remember in Ohio in 1995 when I got busted in July of 95 and they were trying to give me 30 years, me and my girlfriend Natalie, for 30 pounds of weed. Yeah, it turns out they didn't give me 30 years, you know? They ended up kicking it out and fucking telling me to leave Ohio is what they did.
Yep, look at Mark Emery. I mean, he was facing way more than 30 years. With the research that Mark did and with the numbers that they wrote on him, his crime could have been processed under the Kingpin law. And it's when they said that his seeds were responsible for £1 million. And they used that number specifically because that number is in this Kingpin law. And the Kingpin law has a maximum sentence of the death penalty. So that was weird, just even thinking that that could potentially happen. And then look, Mark got 5 years. So from the potential death penalty to 5 years, it's, I mean, it's still terrible. But it's not the death penalty.
As someone who did 5 fucking years, let me tell you, it is horrible. For flowers
you yourself
with murderers for half a decade because I grew fucking flowers in a supposed free country just startles me. And all these people that run around pretending like, you know, they're free here, I'm just thinking it's the most funny thing ever because it's like, really? Go plant some flowers in your front yard. Go do that. Just go plant some cannabis flowers with the marigolds and the roses and see how long it takes for your freedom to expire.
People did a search and it looks like she's...
No, I hear you, Todd. I mean, honestly, I only really said that based on a quote you said to me when I was talking about Mark Emery, and you said, man, it's only if he's only doing 5 years, it's not the end of the world. And I was just like, but it's still 5 years. But then again...
All right, perspective. Listen, he stood on the edge of the border with his thumb up and flipping off the guy, feds, doing all he could to piss him off, and I love him for it.
Yes.
But and he only got 5 years for it. And people ask me when I went to prison, was it worth it, Todd? And my answer was always, yeah. It was totally worth it. A lifetime of freedom. I had to go sit in the corner for a fucking minute, and then I get a lifetime of freedom some more. Yeah, totally worth it. I wouldn't trade it for anything. Yeah.
Yeah, and when Todd says Mark Emery put his thumb up, for those of you that don't know, just one of the things Mark did, say the DEA were having a big event in Vancouver, like $500 a plate, and it was all for like politicians and stuff. Mark would for sure buy a table. A whole table, and then he would invite all people that were wanted by the DEA, and then they would sit in the room, and hardcore cannabis activists like Chris Bennett and David Malmo Levine and Dana Larson, and they would sit there and literally heckle the drug czar, heckling the drug czar, booing him and heckling him at this super expensive dinner, table right up at the front. Steve Tuck actually blew a hit of bubble hash right in that drug czar guy's face while he was surrounded by Secret Service. And I thought when that happened, I thought this shit's gonna get serious. This shit just got escalated to the next level. That's crazy. And that was when John Walters visited the cannabis culture headquarters with his huge fucking football team of Secret Service men, man. Those guys travel large. They're like with him a block away, 2 blocks away, 4 blocks away, 6 blocks away, 10 blocks away. Man.
But I want to throw in a little thought because we've all been in this struggle for a minute and everything, and I want to say that I don't think we should make it really personal against people. Like I don't necessarily think that's a smart idea because if you do anything like that in your hometown and you go heckle your politicians or your local DA and stuff, they are connected.
Yep.
They can make your life through their brother-in-law's, sister-in-law's fucking brother who's a cop a lot harder. And you know what? I think I've always tried to not make it personal. It sounds weird, but it'd be like arguing with the chess pawn. And I'm really there to win the game. I'm really not there to argue with William Bennett or something like that. And I think that it demeans the bigger picture when you make it a personal attack on people that are obviously just pawns in a bigger man's game.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying, and I agree 100% with that. To be honest, it's the best way. Even Mark himself, when he got out of jail, said that he was going to go about his activism in a way different way, that he wasn't going to go about doing. These were different times, and we were so desperate that it was just different times. It was really like, wow, we got to get their attention, and man, those guys, they did it. They got their attention. They got world attention. It's like, you go down to CCHQ back in the day, Hemp BC, and it would be like, who's that guy? It's like, oh, that guy, he's from the Wall Street Journal. He's like waiting for the guy from the New York Times to be done interviewing Mark. Oh, really? And who's that guy? Oh, that guy's from Life magazine, and that guy's from National Geographic. Like, it was always the highest caliber of like journalists that were like, holy shit! Like, Mark had their ear for whatever reason from day one, even before he became a cannabis activist. When he was in Toronto and the garbage men went on strike, he would like rent trucks and get people and hire people and like basically go pick up garbage and take it to the dumps on his own dollar because he thought it was absurd that the garbage men could just go on strike and like make the city full of garbage and fucking get people sick because there's just garbage rotting in the streets. So he's always stood up and just done crazy shit. You know how mad those garbage men were? Those union garbage men? You know how fucking mad those guys were? That was war, bro. They were like cracking dudes over the head and shit because they wanted to go on strike to get a better pay. Mark, being the activist that he is like, I don't give a fuck about your pay. All this garbage needs to be picked up.
So, hey, I asked, very kindly, I asked in chat for people to do a search for Shona to see if she's in or out, and she is officially out on bail. So thank you, everybody, for doing the searches. Much appreciation. Shona, much love and peace if you're out there and watching this. Much respect.
Absolutely. Thanks for that update. Marcus Aran, lucky in Northern Cali. Oh, he's talking about cerebral palsy. Well, cannabis is very good for cerebral palsy. It seems to be a wonder for any type of tremors or shaking. One of the first most magical actual medical cannabis moments that I ever saw in my life that brought tears to my eyes was when Hillary Black was doing the Compassion Club back in the day, maybe a couple years in, and a young kid by the name of Crash, that's what we called him. His name was Craig, but we called him Crash, or Greg, sorry, Greg. I always called him Crash, and he had advanced multiple sclerosis, like the most terrible case you could ever imagine. He shook so badly. Glass pipes were never an option. He would absolutely chip his teeth or break the glass. And he was actually on the David Suzuki, The Nature of Things documentary, and he came to my court case. He wanted to testify for me first before his use of cannabis and second after, but it was one of the most powerful, in-your-face moments of watching someone shake so badly. He also couldn't speak. He would stutter so terribly that he really was unable to get even like 3 words out. He would get stuck on a word and while he was shaking and really kind of shaking like this almost all the time. He would smoke. He would require very powerful medicine. This was before extracts were really a big thing. Bubble hash was really just kind of on the cusp. So he would, roll up hash joints with oil and everything, and then his caregiver would hold it in his mouth so he could get a few puffs in. And it was quite amazing to see after just 2 or 3 puffs the immediate 95% removal of these tremors and the almost 100% removal of the stutter. He was just suddenly able to speak perfectly, and he was the tremors were immediately cut down by 95%, and that is, to me, to this day, one of the most powerful things I've seen happen in front of me for the medicinal benefits of cannabis. It's really be hard for anyone to deny that.
Well, I mean, if that doesn't prove a quality of life that cannabis can bring to someone, I don't know what else will. You know what I'm saying? Because that proof is right there. You watch them take a hit, and within seconds, watch their spasticity go from absolutely wild to them having control over that limb is beyond humbling.
Well, I mean, you know, and then the truly the most amazing story I've ever heard would be Jessica Hawkins' story of Naya, being nonverbal, being in a wheelchair. That whole story is like, I think it was Charlotte Fiji's mom who said in an interview, if cannabis could help alleviate the suffering of just one child at just one point in time, then it should be allowed. And I thought that was a very a powerful quote, that it's very true. Sorry about that, Ninja. Ninja just mentioned that he lost his mother to MS, so that's always a bummer. Hopefully her quality of life was increased by the use of cannabis. Definitely. I feel that my life is increased by the use of cannabis, not only for aches and pains, but just for my all-around, the way I access concepts and ideas seems to be very, very linked to this companion plant that I have in my life. And I get that idea with all of you guys that are extremely passionate about this, you know, moving forward at this accelerated rate, almost as though we're being pushed in all these different directions. It's like we're a cannabis von Neumann machine. For those of you unfamiliar with the von Neumann machine, it was a theoretical machine that would be created to discover the entire universe. A machine that would go out and replicate itself 4 times and then go out in every other direction and continue replicating itself until it had discovered all there was to discover. We are the cannabis von Neumann machine. I like it. I'll have a rip on that. Oh, someone to block in chat. All right, all right. Here we go. It's hard to keep an eye on all of this.
Yep, get the banhammer out.
Well, you know what? Nowadays, I just find it to be a little bit different. I would literally unban anyone that just apologized and said, oh, sorry, I was having a bad day. But I find in the social media aspect of today that there's a group of people that look for traction. So they look for things that are popular and that have people looking at it, and then they try to include themselves in a way that usually is through trolling or some negativity. I'm all for dialogue all day long, but not so much just like outwardly hardcore negativity. Try to keep it positive, people. We got 606 people watching Hashurch right now, and everyone's wondering, when are those guys going to smoke some hash? Right now. Oh,
Does anybody else ever get those days where, like, in the first hour of Hashurch, you're puffing, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my god, I'm way too fucking high to be keeping this up for the next 3 hours. Like, I'm both downers and uppers, and I don't know how I feel. My body is so heavy and my mind is going so fast, and I'm just wiped out from the experience. And you're like, dabs are up, and I'm like, which should I choose? More downers or more uppers? THC or THC?
You're just spoiled for choice.
So you were mentioning, Horatio, your CB, was it CBN that you're rocking?
Yeah, that's what I'm working on, because everyone can get 10, like a very small percent can make, there's so many things that can make oil black, and then everyone love to jump out and say, oh, I got the pure CBN, and I'm like, you don't, it's going to have a certain nature that's going to be consistent as the purity gets up, because 10% CBN won't do it for me. It'll do it for a ton of people, but it won't help me and people like me, so perfecting an art of whatever that contaminant that makes black stuff, basically a way to know, and then we can move into testing. So I keep ingesting it, then attempting to dab it. But that's why I wondered, because I heard things that are heated up, they change, and they turn into plastic. And I'm like, well, should it be clear and red? Should it be black? is the stuff that's red just a discoloration of a percentage of black being added to it? Like, it's hard to trust everyone saying they know pure CBN.
Red is on the way to turning black. Red is on the way. Red's on the road to turning black. Usually it'll turn yellow, and then it'll start to turn. The darker it turns, basically, this is thermo-oxidative degradation of the thermally sensitive components in the oil. And so what you're seeing is basically color bodies that are forming from degradation reactions that happen when you heat up organic compounds in air. And it's perfectly reasonable to think that, again, it's not really the CBN that's black in color, it's all the other degradation products that come along for the ride. And remember that a little bit of a highly colored dark material can cast its shadow over a large volume of material. So materials that have high extinction coefficient chromophores are basically going to be very, very dark, and like food coloring, one drop can go a long way. It doesn't have to be there in a very large concentration to color an entire mass of material dark.
Exactly.
I don't think CBN should be colored at all. CBN theoretically should be completely colorless or slightly yellow if best.
Yeah,
but again, I'll go back to what I was saying before, Horatio. I think all you need to do is, if you could heat up your THC solution and bubble air through it, I think what you'll see is eventually a conversion of the THC. So if the THC is oxidizing to CBN, something has to be reduced. In the case with sulfur, sulfur is just easier to reduce. But again, you don't want sulfur in there, but air will do the same thing. Oxygen in air will essentially be the reductant, because if something's oxidizing, something else must be being reduced. And in that case, I think if you just bubble air through a highly concentrated solution of THC at temperature, I think you'll see a lot of that starting to convert to CBN.
Well, go ahead, Bubbleman.
Well, I was only going to suggest also that you use the oldest material that you can find.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, because the older the material is, the more likely that it's already started its degradation path to CBN through those intermediates that El Soli has now identified, which are the hydroxylated derivatives along the top part of the methyl cyclohexene portion of the ring. So when those hydroxylate, it's a dehydration now, which is just heat away from making two double bonds, and that last double bond is like going downhill. That'll happen on the rotovaporatio. So if you can get that first elimination to happen to make the diene, going to the fully aromatic species is thermodynamically downhill.
Well, in this case, I mean, I'll go ahead and say it. It's coming out as I'm looking for, like you could say, I'm pulling my THC fraction, and that makes my activated LHO. And I have the option to either start degrading that for a different product or looking for fractions that are already CBN because they come off at a different ratio. The thing about it is let's say I can see the degradative curve. I can see literally as you could say the bright yellow becomes deeper and then it goes into reds, because these are only things that distill off. As I can see my working flask getting blacker and blacker and blacker. Now, there are subtleties. Like, let's say you take that flask of black stuff and you rinse it out with alcohol. One type red stuff comes out and the black stuff remains, but then if I rinse it out with nonpolar, like limonene, there's another black fraction that comes out. So even in looking at that receiving flask, I've split off polar versus nonpolar. That's why I'm like, everyone can produce something that's 10%. All material is all in between.
Right.
I've seen people test Reclaim and only get 8% CBN, so that doesn't cut it. It means it was 80% crap.
Right. If it's a lighter colored solution, there's actually a quick and easy test that you can see if it's actually been fully aromatized and there's not an available double bond, and that is you can see if it decolorizes either a solution of bromine or iodine. The iodine that you can buy at the drugstore that you would use on a cut or something like that. If it decolorizes iodine, that means there's an active double bond that the iodine molecule can add to, and so that was just a a colorimetric indication to determine whether or not you've fully gone to CBN.
Okay, so I would take like a spot of iodine and then put a dot of oil halfway in between it and see if it pulls.
Yeah, if you see the color go away, you're not fully there. But if the color remains in the iodine, that means that it's completely aromatic, and the iodine can add to the double bonds of the benzene ring once it becomes aromatic.
Okay, I'll try doing a picture of that, like with the iodine with like regular THC active, and then move down the ladder of things I have.
Horatio, you don't even need to use iodine. You could use starch paper. There's something called starch paper, which is impregnated with an iodometric indicator. And I think if you touch the starch paper with it, I think if it turns dark, it's good. But if it stays clear, it's the same. I don't know. I could look that up. But starch paper is just basically a paper that's impregnated with an iodometric indicator that you would use in a very similar way.
No, this is new shit on Hashurch, the home test kit.
I like it. And Dabs.
About time I did something.
About time. I like it. I like the dialogue. It's good to see. People are digging it too in the chat room. They're all asking for Skunkman Sam. They want Skunkman Sam to come chat. Analytical Mike's actually in the room right now, Horatio. I was just saying hi to him and asked him if he wanted to come chat, and he said he's waiting for Skunkman Sam. All right.
That would be special.
Could be a long wait.
Ballroom.
Hey, Darrin. I didn't even see you. And Cuban. Nice. What's going on, guys? And Lauren's in the house, too.
What's up, brother? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Word. Yeah, I'm on a cell phone, man, so it's a little ghetto. And you know what? I just noticed my cell phone has a crack on it, man. That's fucked up.
That's fucked up.
Damn. Yeah, I just woke up. I'm getting ready for my second day at Chalice. Chalice was pretty
Cuban, we gotta hook up, man. Where you gonna be? We gotta meet for sure.
Yeah, I don't have a booth, so I'm just kind of roaming around.
Tell you where you're gonna meet us. Listen. It's right behind just behind the Hitman booth in the glass blowers gallery. There's some couches, and it's pretty comfortable, and there's a tent. So just go to where the main stage is and like go around the back of the Hitman booth, and I'm sure we'll be back there.
Word. I saw Rob Clark, man, but I was like on a churro and water mission. So I kind of made him wait a little bit, bro, because everybody kept stopping me on the way to everywhere I went. So, like, to walk 50 feet to the churro, I got stopped like 4 times for dry sift. And I felt bad. When I bought my water and churro, I went to go look for Rob, and he had left. So I got to link up with him today.
He's in the house right there. Boom. Hey, Rob.
Hey, just like that.
Hey. Sorry, man. When I bought my churros and water, I saw you had left, but I probably left you waiting a long time.
That's all right, man. I stood there for a while. I guess you just disappeared behind the churro trailer there, but yeah. Anyway,
brother. I got stopped by so many people. I was like, hey, man, I'm holding up Rob Clark right now. All right, I got to go look for him.
I get kidnapped constantly. Everybody walks up and goes, hey, man, I see you on Hashurch. It's so cool. And
yeah.
Taken? Yeah, man, sure, okay.
Rob is finally famous in the movement.
Well, I love to sit down and talk hash with you, man, and smoke some dry sift. I still got a pretty good amount left.
We'll do it. Absolutely.
Sounds like you've been smoking a lot, though, Cuban.
Oh, and bro, I went to Chalice last minute, right? So Friday I didn't sleep, and I came on like a fucking 5 in the morning flight Saturday. So all day at Chalice, I'm just dabbing and feeling like a zombie. So yeah, I slept good. I'm feeling pretty good now. Check this out, guys. I don't know if you guys have a good view at it, but I've been making fresh frozen whole plant runs and vacuuming the hash for a little while, and then I rosin that hash. I whip it and I stick it in the oven at like 120 full vac for like 2-3 hours, and it waxes it out. It's pretty cool. I have another one here. It's just kind of crumbly. I want to keep falling apart. Hold on.
Look at it.
I love it.
I'm just sitting here smiling.
I know, right?
Yeah. And I brought some water hash. Dude, it was so hot. It was like 100 degrees, it felt like to me. My jar was warm from being outside, and I felt so bad for my water hash, man. It looks like this now.
Smoke it with Rob today and blow the smoke towards the Vatican, and it will all be okay.
Smoke signals to the Vatican all day on Sunday. You should start with Hashurch, but if you live earlier in the time zones, you should get up and do your own Hashurch first thing in the morning. It's good, healthy exercise.
Hell yeah. I do it. I'm, I'm on it. It's been.
I have a friend who used to put a bong next to his bed, and he'd wake up early on Sunday mornings, and he'd do a big bong hit, and then he'd go back to bed and have beautiful dreams.
That's how my wife is, man. She wakes up and like the first thing she does is take a dab. But me, I'm a little different. I need a nice cup of coffee, like a really strong coffee.
In you, buddy.
If I don't have my coffee, I ain't smoking.
Yeah, we went first to Starbucks when we left here to go to Chalice yesterday for Kenny's.
Guys, crack me up.
Try that Cuban coffee.
Oh yeah, that's all I drink, just Cuban coffee, man. You know, it's good. I wish I could have you guys come over and visit me in Washington, man. I'll make you guys coffee and spark you all up.
It's raining.
In Cali.
Come visit us in California.
Hey, I'm here.
We got
Visit
great.
me.
Oh yeah, good point. Good point. yeah. Hey, you can
Hey, I'm here.
if you want.
And I got my dry sift with me.
Right on.
Oh,
So
snap.
we'll have a party today.
Just a minute. I got to eat a bowl of cereal before we go to this thing, or I'll fall down. So I'll be back. See you later. Whoever's going to be there today, Cuban, everybody else, see you later today.
Yep, I'll see you for sure, man.
All right, man.
So, hey, guys, I'm going to get off of here because I'm going to get ready to eat breakfast and go to Chalice. It was nice seeing you. I know my wife is watching. She sent me a message. So, love you, baby, if you're watching. Love you guys. Bye. I'll see you later.
Have fun. Bye, Miss Cuban.
Your mic's live still.
Here's a question I want to throw out there. I wanted to ask Cuban, but I'm sure I could get the answer as well from here. Is in the when anybody's doing their dry sifting, and they've got an air conditioner on, they bring it into a certain temperature. What's the humidity they like to have it at as well? The humidity and temperature ratio of a perfect room to be dry sifting in. Does anybody have that?
Well, I mean, 0 is a nice number.
Yeah, no, it's possible.
If you can get 0 humidity, you're laughing. Humidity is the enemy, so the lowest humidity, and then temperature too. I love cool temperatures. I mean,
But
shit.
How low can you get it down here on the coast on a humidity level? Like, what's the lowest you can get it, do you think? Can you get it to 0?
Well, I mean, anything's possible if you built a sealed room and you controlled the environment. It just becomes how ridiculous is it? I'm sure if you get it down to like 20, you'll be in an okay situation.
Air conditioner, dehumidifier in a small room.
Well, Mark, you were in my lab. Even when you just showed up, it was just like average cold for working. But, I mean, I try to bring it down to about 52 Fahrenheit before I start. And I'm not trying to insulate the room, so it's hella inefficient. But even just like closed door, like basic box, that's a reasonable workspace to get going, and it only gets better if you actually build a room for it.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks.
That is for sure. It's always nice to control your environment 100%. And
Yeah,
but yeah, 0% humidity.
Control the environment where you're growing and you're making hash, but as soon as you bring it out in the world, the world is an uncontrolled environment.
Which totally reminds me of a conversation we had last week that Skunkman Sam was definitely like, he wanted to have his 2 cents in, and I forgot about this. It was in regards to the difference between the HPLC and the GC and the heating of the cannabinoids and the terpenes. And what he said was that, why are you guys so worried about that machine testing cannabinoids that are being heated or terpenes that are being heated when you yourselves only ever use them with heat? Meaning what we actually get is a chemically altered profile from the heat that we've produced over this material, whether we're vaping or burning or whatever. So we ourselves aren't getting the true profile as much as we're getting the chemically altered profile after heat. I guess the activated profile.
That was the benefit of trying to taste it when we tried tasting the terps, was to see, hey, is this anything like what I know from my senses when I smoke it, or is it completely, do we not know the plant yet until we completely ingest even the terps?
Right.
I mean, yeah, the point of gas chromatography is you are measuring the volatile profile off of what's being heated up, how it's being heated up and the rate at which it's being heated up, and the concentration of the analytes are all going to be impacting what comes off in terms of what you're measuring in the GC. I guess the point is that if you're looking at sort of a non-thermal delivery of cannabinoids through either sublingual or oral delivery or transdermal delivery, you're not necessarily heating up the cannabinoids unless you're decarboxylating prior to making the formulation. So I guess the point of knowing the actual makeup before it's heated up is to understand what the heat process does to the chemical makeup of the hash or the extract, right?
Well, yeah, if you didn't know the difference, then you would only believe in the terpenes that you smoke, and you'd never consider the terpenes that you smell. Smelling them or eating them might do even more for our high than just stabbing. So you bet. I mean, topically, that aromatherapy could do marvelous things, but if you didn't know those terpenes were there because you only knew their heated up version, you would just say, oh, it's just D-limonene. Nobody's going to want that basic profile.
Yeah, so again, this is what everyone has been asking about, which is that the actual what's being burnt, you know, D-limonene and most of the terpenes are fall into what are called Class A1 or Class 1A flammables, as classified by OSHA. Class 1A have a certain flammability below their boiling point or flash point. You can look it up on Google and just look for OSHA classification of liquids. But anyway, so most of those are flammable, meaning that if they do get a chance to burn, they will. But it's like when you're burning that top part of your bowl or your bong hit, it's the neighboring weed, if you will, that's being superheated enough before combustion or flammability occurs that's vaporized and part of what you're drawing into your lungs. And so yes, at that point what you're doing is you're not necessarily heating it up to the point where it's burning, but you're heating it up to the point where it's vaporizing. And I guess maybe that was the point of, well, since we're heating these things up, why are we so worried about relying on an analytical technique that heats up the oil? And so the only way I'll respond to that, again, is that I think it's useful to know the profile both before and after heating so you can understand what the heating process does, because not all heating happens in the same way. The injection port of most of these GC methods that analyze hash for residual solvent is either 200 or 250 degrees centigrade, so you can convert that to Fahrenheit. It's a pretty high number. So right away you're thermally shocking the material to excite it to put it into the vapor phase, and as it elutes off the column as it's going through the chromatographic process, that's where you actually identify all of the components. But that's after it's been heated in maybe what's not a very clean injector port, because these companies sample hundreds, if not thousands, of samples through these machines without ever probably cleaning all the residue and crap that's left behind in some of these injection ports. And so in the injection port, all kinds of chemistry can happen to change the thermally sensitive molecules that are in that oil. So I like to look at NMR and HPLC of the same oil and make sure that I could ascribe what chemistry is going on in the thermal heating of that oil.
Well, I guess, I mean, for regular people, you could take like a vaporizer cold and put your favorite weed in it, and just pulling on it, you start to get terpenes in your mouth. And if you heat it up and then let it, build and vape all the way up to a temperature that starts the cannabinoids, that would be the closest thing the average person could get to an experience. I mean, it's losing all the way, but you get a sense of even pulling on terpenes that are just heated enough by the environment, so you taste that cold. Then you can taste slowly and slowly, and you realize, wow, if I just roasted that all at once in a flash experience, it would be way different. So,
yes.
literally, what you described, it sounds like the injection port is dabbing. At those temperatures, it's a flash event.
Yeah. Probably at a much lower temperature, right? I mean, what's the temperature that people keep their nails at? Isn't a typical nail temperature?
Mine's at 580 Fahrenheit right now.
Okay, so what is that? So 580 Fahrenheit. Let me get out my converter here.
About 304 Celsius. Pretty low and boiling. That's even lower than me. How'd you go so low?
You know what? Honestly, I just was playing around the other day. It seems like it's so much warmer here. It's really warm, and it's almost tropical. Like it was 40 degrees Celsius here the other day with the humidity index. So we're in warm temperatures. And what I found was that my nail just seemed too hot. My hit seemed too hot at 700, 750, where I usually hit. I went down to 650. Still felt much the same way, and then when I went down just below 600, it was just hitting more like what I prefer. And it's not really what I'd call a super low temp dab. It's still hitting very nice.
Yeah, so just to go back to the humidity thing for a second, I think there was a discussion on one of the Facebook comments around hygroscopic versus hydrophilic. So yeah, there's certain compounds, certain organic compounds that naturally absorb moisture from the air, and that's called hygroscopic. And sometimes salts do this, organic compounds could do this. It's just the nature of the compound that they attract water. Even hydrophobic compounds like the ones found in cannabis oil, you would think, well, that could never be hygroscopic, but it turns out it is, because again, some of the structures that are formed in these oil-type emulsions actually rely on water. That whole discussion around buttering. I think the buttering phenomena has a lot to do with both exposure to atmospheric moisture and just any other air. So you could make hash in a controlled environment, but as soon as you bring it out in a moist environment, it's just going to readily absorb water. I don't think you can keep it from happening. I wonder if these little silica packets or sachets that you find, say, like in a new pair of shoes, to control moisture from degrading shoes, can be used in a way to control moisture, say, like in a humidor sense, to have it just equilibrate at a certain level, because you can't keep it away. We live in a moist world. There's no way you can possibly keep it out, but certainly you could manage it in and around the container where you're keeping your hash, especially if it gets warm.
Well, I'll hit a bong rip on that. Little nollie drop.
Yeah. Hey, I gotta jump, folks. It turns out my boy's coming in at the airport, and I gotta go pick him up. So save all your chemistry questions for tomorrow or for next week. Mark, thanks for inviting me on. It's always great to be on. I'm always thrilled to have such an attentive audience who's hungry for all this chemistry knowledge.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, and just for my 2 cents too, that Dead reunion last week in Chicago was just a wonderful time. It was a clusterfuck on a few different levels, because really getting in and out of that stadium was nuts. But it was a great time. The music was awesome, and check it out. There's all kinds of pictures and links on YouTube, and it ended up breaking all kinds of records. And I can tell you there was a lot of good hash being smoked there, and I got called out by 3 different people who came up to me and said, dude from Hashurch. And one guy wasn't even there at the show. He was just happened to be in Chicago for the weekend. A guy who was there with his family. He was walking out of the Subway restaurant with a couple subs dinner for his family waiting at the hotel, and he goes, "Do I know you? I know you from somewhere." And I was like, "No, I don't think so, dude. You don't look familiar." He goes, "You're the guy from Hashurch," and we started talking. Really super sweet, super nice guy. So yeah, Mark, we get a lot of PR out there, and always grateful to be called out for participating in church.
That's awesome, dude. And I loved the Let Trey Sing T-shirt.
Yeah. He did so well. We're so proud of our boy, Mark. He totally killed it. Fish heads everywhere should be proud of what Trey did. He filled Jerry's shoes, and I think it's okay for them to call the Grateful Dead now done that he's done this. He rose to the level. And come on out on Fish Tour. Fish is going to rage it this summer tour. You'll smell lots of good hash being smoked at a Fish show. So come on out, Hashurch people. All right, take care, folks. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Have a good one, Mark.
Peace.
Nice. Very nice. Well, I get to take my family to a movie later today with my sister and my niece that I never get to see. It's very nice to come back and see family. You move away and you forget sometimes how much you enjoy hanging out with your family. So it's been pretty good. Back in the peg here for a little bit. I think I got a friend coming over. It's also Folk Festival in Winnipeg this weekend, which is a very big festival in Winnipeg. It's one of the bigger ones across Canada. Hundreds of bands, all sorts of different people end up there. It's really quite a cool event. I'm sort of sorry that I'm not going to be making it, but Hashurch wouldn't have been possible if I went to the Folk Fest today, so I thought we'd better pass on the Folk Fest and say yay to some Hashurch. Everyone looks like a picture right now to me. Casey and Lauren and Horatio. Oh yeah, there you're moving. She's moving. Darren's moving. Weird, because when
I better prove that I'm moving with a dad. That's the best evidence.
Yeah, it looked like everyone was frozen up for me. The camera, my internet's probably not that good. I'm doing too much interneting, as I often do. I went to my uncle's cabin for just a few days, and my family, we used his internet so much it was like there was like a fee came up on the message. You can't use your internet anymore until you pay $50.
Oh.
That's what you get. That's what you get in the future.
Well, I mean, you didn't realize you're on dial-up, so that was probably the issue that ran up the fees so quickly.
Oh yeah, totally. I don't even know what kind of dial-up it was. It was definitely some random weird lake internet with a booster.
Satellite.
Welcome, Tony.
What's going on, buddy?
Oh, we just said goodbye to Mark Scialdone, and we said goodbye to Rob Clark and Kay from Trichome Technologies and Etienne and Todd. I guess they're all in California for the Chalice Festival.
Yeah, I wish I could have been there.
Yeah, me too, dude.
Looks like everyone's having a good time there.
Looks like a game changer.
What, Chalice?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it looks like the kind of thing that if High Times doesn't rock the High Times Cannabis Cup in Jamaica this year, like so fucking hard, Chalice maybe will.
I think Chalice is, I think Dougie put a lot of energy and a lot of time into it, and it shows. Even his judges' packages were really cool.
They were the greatest judges' packages I've ever seen in my life. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
This shit was fashion. I looked at it, I'm like, ooh, what the? This is like I went shopping like on the main avenue and the bags are all keepers. Like, oh, I got to keep this bag I bought it in and store it. It's art. It's, you know, as the pictures rolled in, I'm like, Jesus Christ, what? I got into an argument with my wife, and at some point, I'm like, you don't even understand. I'm not at Chalice right now. Do you understand what I could be going through? It looks real.
Yeah, it reminds me of like a hoodlum box that the jackets come in, but you open it and it's all foam, and he's got the torch, and he's got dabbers, and he's got a glass pipe, and there's little containers, and it's pretty pimped out. I was impressed.
There are a few things that have made me wish I could go to America more than this.
Yeah, it's been happening to me for years, dude, for years. Like, it used to be big fish shows. It was like, are you going to go to, they had all these different festivals that they did with different names, and it was like Oswego, or what the hell are some of these old 90s fish? The Great Went, I think, was one. It, maybe? Marble Slinger used to go to all of them. I used to miss all of them and be crushed by it because I wanted to go so badly. But I got over it, as I will get over this. 148 concentrate samples each judge had to go through. Wow. Good on Dougie. Dougie's killing it. You're not hitting out of the mothership.
No, I I left the mothership in California.
Oh, shit. So now you need a mothership for Colorado?
You could have left it in my house, Tony. Damn it.
Look at you guys.
Anytime. Bong storage is always available for you, bro. Safe, secure rig storage. Yes, I saw a sign that said that yesterday. But anyone who wants to see the photos, I took high-resolution layered photos of all 62 Chalice entries of cannabis, because that's what I judge. Yeah, flowers. I didn't judge the non-solvent water hash, and I didn't judge the solvent hash. I smoked some of them, though. But anyone can go to my HempXXX Instagram and see the photos. A lot of really amazing pot, a lot of pot. You know, out of 62 varieties, it's hard to have 62 amazing, buds. But there was a lot of good stuff there. Really good. How should I put it? A good range of what is on the California scene right now, for sure.
Yeah, speaking of really good pot, you had some that pressed out last time I saw you. I think it was the highest yield we've ever had on a rosin press. One of them.
I'm using those little Bovita packs, which keep my cannabis at like 62% humidity, and it's perfect for joints. It keeps it a touch moister than I like. I mean, I wish it was at 58 or 60, but it really, the longevity, the terpene preservation is amazing. I really recommend these things to more. I've only been using them really, we should say religiously, for the past 6 or 7 months, and I think it's really improved the quality, overall quality of the cannabis. The joints, when I light them, they go around 5 or 6 times. The joints go around over and over and over because, dry cannabis really sucks, and a lot of us run into stuff that isn't cured well. The terpenes evaporate off. It's really, people ruin cannabis after they harvest. They spend all this time doing a great job growing pot, and then at the end, they fuck it off. They dry it too quickly. They don't preserve the terpenes. They don't cure it. And, I think what you're just experiencing, Tony, is, someone that's a stickler for well-preserved or well-cured cannabis, really. Because that's stuff that you smoke and cut down for Spanibus, which was March. Yeah, so it had been curing since March.
That's crazy. Yeah, you definitely noticed the moisture content made the rosin a lot oilier, and we actually had the wrong parchment the first time, so we could see what that did. And then I think that there's something to that, finding the right moisture, especially when you're doing flower rosin. Depends on what you're doing. If you're doing it for, now we're doing large volume for food grade, what we're calling food grade. But it's like oil that goes right into capsules or sublinguals versus the rosin that you would be smoking. And I think that there's a nice harmony there when you get the right moisture in there. So we've been starting to play around with trying to preserve the right moisture when you're doing specifically oil that way, because I liked what I saw, and obviously the flower that you grew was superb too. So I mean, that helped. What was it, green crack and What was the other one we did? You remember?
You talking to Todd?
Yeah.
It's green crack, and then what was train wreck?
Trainwreck Cross.
Train wreck cross, and then.
Yeah, that train wreck was good. You still have any of that left?
I'll always have it.
No, I mean some of the rosin. You smoke all through.
Oh no, we smoked the shit out of that.
Long
That
gone.
didn't last.
Come back.
So did you guys talk about the tribal thing? Because I
Nope.
know that's a hot topic.
We did not talk about the tribal thing. You want to mention it or what?
Yeah, there was a big raid in California on tribal land. And a lot of people were hitting me up and freaking out. They thought that like somehow we went down, or I don't know what the deal was, but I was in my own world, and people were like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm doing great. I'm pressing out 200-gram rosin patties at a time." I was like, "What's up?" And then that article came out, and really what happened was you have to really read when you see an article that comes out. You have to really read specifics in what they're actually saying. And in this particular case, the feds raided a tribal grow that was 675,000 square foot of greenhouse. They had 15,000 plants. They had 100 pounds of extracts sitting there. And they're funded by a tobacco company out of Canada, by an individual that I don't want to use names because I don't want to get into slander or anything like that. But that particular individual that owns a tobacco company that was funding this also has a drug record, a past. And I think when you put international money, tribal land, some past history, and then you look at, did they have ordinances? Did they try to comply and integrate with the state? Meaning, where does their product go? And in that article, they specifically said that the feds were interested in the finance and in the money trail, and their main question was, with all of this cannabis, where are you selling it? Right? So if you're on your own land and you're growing the world's biggest grow, because that was the biggest grow they busted, where are you selling it to? So once you start getting into that area, you're not organized, then I think you leave yourself open to international concerns, and you leave yourself open to investigations that could lead to other things. Right now, they didn't arrest anyone, which is really important, and they didn't take anything. They didn't take anything except plants and the product. So they didn't confiscate the land. They didn't confiscate the property. They didn't arrest anyone. So they're doing an investigation trying to figure out that money trail and how that mechanism works. And so what's significantly, in my opinion, significantly different, and I could be wrong, but I'm just acting as a consultant for the tribes that we're working with in California. And so specifically with Ukiah, that tribe adapted an ordinance, and those ordinances, they're pretty strict, and they are all over us from the second you're on their land. So those ordinances adapted a lot of Colorado's ordinances. So we have a seed to sale system. There's a tracking system. There's a nonprofit collective that's been established that all patients become members, growers are members, exactly like the same type of collective situation that you have in California with the seed to sale tracking systems and regulations and good business practices that you would have that was developed from Colorado. So it's a hybrid blend of ordinances. You have to get badged. You have to have background checks. The only thing different, and this was kind of a little bit of our influence in those ordinances, the only thing different in Colorado, if you have a drug felony for cannabis, you can't get a job. And so we lifted that section and said, if the only drug felony that you have is cannabis, and that's the only one you have, you can still get a job in in those ordinances. So that means if you were never, if you're busted with cocaine, armed robbery, rape, or any kind of other serious felony, obviously you're going to get screened out just like you would in any other system, and you're not going to get a job. But if you were only caught, with cannabis or hash or cultivating or trafficking cannabis, then it's not going to limit you from getting a job because, let's face it, we've all been in this cannabis industry a while, and some of you guys out there have gotten caught, and some of you have not. And so some of you that have gotten caught that are not able to play in the game, it's a shame because you have probably more skills than anyone else that is in the game. And so we didn't want to limit that. And so there's a collective that's on a tribal ground with ordinances, with full-time security, cameras, full-time personnel monitoring the entire place. Everybody monitors everyone that works there. Everyone works with contracts and background checks for that collective. The collective set up like members, and we bring in product that we grow our own, or we work with farmers to process that into products that then sell again to other collectives. So all product goes to patients, all products go through collectives. And I think that's the huge significant difference between what we saw the raids going. I don't have all the details, but I would suspect when the feds get involved like that, it's something a little bit bigger than we just don't want you growing cannabis.
Yeah, it was apparently a disagreement between a brother and sister who both claim kind of control over the tribes or whatever. So the sister apparently called it in and was like, man, my brother's doing this and he shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, and that was the other thing. It's like, that's what I also heard right before I left as well, that it was a family feud and there was back and forth, and he said he was going to do it anyway. And there's a right way and a wrong way to help people. And I'm not sure all of the details there, but I know that the spirit of our business model and the spirit of the tribe that we're working with is medical, helping patients. They want to start addressing things like PTSD, methadone clinics, opiate addiction. Like they really want to start in that kind of category. So, and that makes more sense when you look at a unity among these different types of organizations. So you can't come in and just blow up 600,000 square foot of greenhouse and then just do what you want. Like that's not going to fly.
Yeah, I saw it. It was huge.
Does it seem like when there's a crime, it's because feds can only come when a native Indian brings them in? Like with most police things, that's why it's the federal government. Like when a native dispute happens, even the murder, they're asked to come in to participate in it. So it sounds like it wouldn't really have happened even with all of the other shady aspects if the sister didn't initiate the invite even.
Yeah, did you see how many greenhouses there were? There was 40 greenhouses. That was impressive.
I think there was more than 40. I was counting the ones that were under construction and the ones that I saw from the aerial, and it was extremely impressive. It was like the most monstrous greenhouse production shit like ever. And I don't even know if it was shady. They might have had ordinances and selling into collectives, but I had never heard of them doing that. And I think if they were working with collectives, I think then that would have come out in that article.
Well, they inherited a whole bunch of nice greenhouses.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like it actually was, I mean, it may not be agreeable, but you don't get to that scale just like overnight, and even if it's like, where's that all going? I'm like, whatever it is, it's organized as fuck, because you give me that problem, it's like, oh, hey, buddy, I've got 100 pounds of extracts. I'm like, I don't have a freezer to keep this. It's all going to butter. It's all done for. Like, we need these people. These are the consultants of the year, it seems like. They have the best of the best of the best. So it takes a lot of participation to get that going.
Well, you keep in mind the Canadian investor was he not a billionaire, or did he just represent a multi-billion-dollar company in Canada?
It's definitely a multi-billion-dollar company. It's a tobacco company.
Yeah, so he probably peeled off 25 mil or whatever, 40 mil, and just was like, "Oh, just do a little project," and I can just show that as a loss.
12 million.
Stocks went down 3 seconds. 12 million they invested.
Nothing for tobacco guy.
I was going to say, I'm like, oh shit, so all the weed is grown big tobacco style. That's probably how they kept it so organized. So it totally does go to poison people in the black market in droves.
Yeah, it was...
That's why I said the spirit. You have to look at the spirit behind the medicine. And so I've always said, if your spirit is not positive, you know, and you're not truly trying to help from the heart and try to grow the best resin you can for patients, and you're like, okay, we're just going to do this for money, then I don't think you're going to be as successful. It's not a repeat type of sustainable, healthy business model. That's like the tobacco style is like, hey, volume in cigarettes, cheaper, people will buy it. Even if they try it 2 times and they never try it again, there's more people. We'll just keep advertising to people, you know? And that's just not, it works, but it's not the same model that we all subscribe to, on our end at least.
I guess that's why we don't have so much greenhouses by the millitons so quickly. If you serve an evil master, he seems to pay out a lot sooner. So I can only imagine being funded by big tobacco and what that gets you until it all comes crashing down.
Yeah, and for us, we also, a lot of people were trying to, like, I don't know, ridicule or second guess what we were doing in California, but, you know, in the beginning, and we finally was able to, on 4th of July, on Independence Day, there was, most people didn't know this, but there's several plots of land, not just the one on the 101, but the fence needed to be permanent and updated because it was very windy there, and it's close to the 101, and so now there's a permanent fence up there. But there was other plots, and on 4th of July, the other plots were able to get planted, and so that's some of the pictures you saw on my Instagram. I think Horatio, you saw that one. And so those plants have been vegging there. We've been growing them 10s, 40 gallons, preparing to get them in play. And they're like 8 feet tall with the with those 200 gallons. And so that's like a lot of those are the first initial ones that with MTG, who's a local second generation farmers and patients themselves. And like I said, the spirit behind their work and their family, like there's a son, there's a father, there's best friends for 20 years. They're out there physically with the plants. And I think that was like, I felt very good, and it was a good approach into the initial plan was work with locals and integrate them into making this a successful project. And it's stressful because it's never been done before, and everybody gets crazy stressed out, but when you get it done and you move forward, I think it builds a different type of unity and a different type of morale, and it's good to see for a change where people are actually smiling and feeling good about their work instead of having to like always look over their shoulder and feel strange about it.
Well, I mean, it must feel good to see, you know, like as bad as that news is, you know, in general, raid news, to have a situation in which you feel, well, if that's what they come after when they come after something, we're so on the right track that you start to feel not untouchable in the arrogant sense, but you know the road you're on is the right road if that's what it takes for the government to step in for people on the wrong road. Like they were going hard for what must be a long time before it got to this.
Yeah, I think so. And you know, we can't really speak for what they were doing with the product, but it's definitely big tobacco style. So I don't know. Maybe they were doing it all to gear up to try to. They didn't sell anything, and maybe they were just doing it to gear up to stockpile raw cannabis oil for future, tobacco investment deals. Like, who knows? Like, they maybe never even had to sell anything, and that's their case. But like you said, that was a big plantation. Like, that was like very well organized. So my hats are off to whoever put it together because it looked pretty damn organized.
Seems like they just.
I wonder what you were growing.
Huh?
They didn't.
I wonder what they were growing.
Oh, you wonder what they were growing? Yeah, what strains? You know?
Sorry, Mark, what were you saying?
So I was going to tell you guys about the. Some people were like trying to figure out what this the CBN rosin hash, and I'll tell you, it's pretty exciting when you can start to look at your plant material or your phytocannabinoids in a raw state, in a solventless state, and you got different types of lab grade toys around you for the first time in a while, and you're able to say, okay, well, what could we do to create different products from this? We know we could do THCA, we know we could do CBDA, do inactives, we can do activated, so we can decarboxylate the rosin. We could run it through multiple presses, screens, filtration processes, and then I was like, well, how do we do this solventless to solvent-free, crystalline 99.9%? Try to stay into a position where you can get to the purest form, but starting with rosin. So that's where that CBN came from, which was, activating the actual hash, and then utilizing heat on the pressing at different temperatures, and then utilizing another chamber to be able to control temperature and degradation, and utilizing high volumes of oxygen, which is key, and doing different techs all with rosin. And so that's why it was kind of really exciting, because that was like the first time you could start to work with it like in another way. So you start looking at material, dry trim, small bud. You're like, wow, I could just make food grade THC oil, food grade CBD oil, food grade CBN oil, and you could start making these raw concentrates like without any chemicals. And I put a little bit of it into the plant fat a while ago, so I already knew what was going to happen, but I showed everybody. I'm like, here it is. Here's the rosin. Here's the plant fat. I just set it down. I was like, give it 15 minutes, and then it's beautiful absorption. So I think there's a real big key to the filtration. Like we were using 90 and 120 bags, so we'd have a 120 bubble bag, right? And then we'd second wrap it with a 90 or second wrap it with a 45, so it goes through 2 layers. And so being able to play with different types of filtration layering with different type of product is going to come with like a certain skill. Like you're going to look at the bud, and like with Todd's product, it was a lot moister. So it created a real oily type of rosin, which in some cases is really good, because if you're trying to make activated rosin, you may want a little moisture in there because it's easier to manipulate, and then you're going to be activating anyway, so you're going to get rid of that. So there's just a whole new dimension that opens up when you start to get to just working with lots of concepts of using rosin into, capsules, sublinguals, transdermals, edibles. It just becomes a very good replacement to a solvent oil.
Amen.
So that is why we're going to be installing a triple press in Colorado, and we're going to start processing food grade, what we call food grade ash oil, you know.
You got to do a dabs over Denver called the triple bypass, in which you just, and it's like, we're working our way up to CBN here. It's getting hot in the room. We're turning it up. It's steaming off. We're adding water, and make it exciting.
Yeah, you got the concept. I tried to say that as delicately as I could without giving it all away, but that's it. You're using pressure and temperature and moisture to steam things out in processes so you can speed things up. And so if you're constantly degrading it along the way and you're able to do things, it speeds it up, and then and then there's different levels. So I'm eager to see what these guys come up with, because there's a always advancement in R&D. So there's somebody else in our project up there that is a very talented chemist, and somebody that is on the level. And so that person is working on some other products that are very interesting. I think you'll like them.
We are in an interesting time. Today on Instagram, I saw this white powder, and I was like, oh, here's someone else's THCA. And then it wasn't a white THCA. It was a CBD powder, and it was a water-soluble. That's at least what they were claiming in this photo. And I read it real quick. I kind of wished I would have saved it because I wanted to talk about it a little bit today. But, yeah, it was apparently a water-soluble powder that you could just throw into a little drink and take your dose that way. And yeah, I was going to ask Mark what he thought about that and see what you guys thought about that, but I really don't have any other information on it. I'm sure I'll see it again, though.
Well, oddly enough, when I was leaving Oakland, Addison was going from Oakland to LA.
Okay.
And, I mean, smallest world. I drove around this economy parking lot, no shit, for 20 minutes, couldn't find a spot. I go to the guard to leave. And the guy goes, oh, yeah, $2. I was like, $2 to drive around this parking lot? I was like, I'm not paying $2. There's no parking. He's like, oh, yeah, there's parking. I was like, where? And he points, like, way off. So I was like, started to drive that way, and lo and behold, there was a parking spot right there in the front by this bus pickup. So I was like, oh, perfect. I somehow magically found the spot that I didn't see driving back and forth down the aisles. I see this guy right in front of me who got another great spot. I'm like, man, how'd that guy get that spot? And it's Addison, and he's coming out of his car, and I'm like, oh, he gave me good luck for the parking, So I had Ola with me, and then he was like in the parking lot, and then basically he was talking about his move, with Steep Hill and everything like that.
Yeah, I guess he's not with them anymore.
He's not with them anymore, but he's working on. I can tell you, he's working on some projects like that. He might be a good guest to have on, because he mentioned to me the project he's working on was like water-soluble THC and water-soluble CBD, and he had some different groups that he was working with on it. I've actually had a water-soluble THC pill or CBD pill. So I've had some friends, the same circle he's talking about. They've been working on that, and I think it's really interesting because there's different things you can do with it. I definitely know it's possible. I've been toying around with it for a while. I just didn't think, I felt like the absorption rate would be a lot different than if it was plant-based and plant fat-based, Yeah. And if you're getting 95, 99% absorption in a sublingual, and then you go water-based, what's that do in the way that it would target? And so I feel like it's maybe not the best way to target CB1 and CB2 because it's watered down as it goes down.
Well, Dr. David Allen was sure, like, he kept saying it would be the future of heart surgery, that there would be water-soluble cannabinoids fed through intravenous before and after big heart surgery.
Yeah. That I could see the place. That would be a huge market for that.
That's where he just saw it, like, and he's sort of that's his big thing, and he's got some neat ideas about that.
But to take it as a pill or to drink it, I think that I'm not sure like what that absorption would be like or how it would target. But but as what you just said, Yeah, 100%. That's the next billion-dollar idea. If you get a water-soluble saline cannabinoid uptake that you can do in one of those saline bags that they give patients, 100%.
Well, Dr. David Allen is totally ready to do that work. He texts me every once in a while, and he's just like, you know, get me a lab. I'll start working right away. That's the idea. And I think he knows a lot more about it than he shares initially.
Okay, well, I would love to talk to that guy then.
Yeah, well, I'll hook you guys up, and you guys can talk. He's an inspiration. He's got some great knowledge and some great information. It's always good to see these doctors opening their eyes and you know, taking that Hippocratic oath seriously. To do no harm really should be to prescribe no farm. The new Hippocratic oath.
Did you just coin that, or is that a buzzword? Like,
No. I just coined that for sure, dude. And in fact, you can tell people you coined it. It's all good.
Well, I think that there's an article coming out in the Ukiah Daily that I'm not sure if you got credited on it, but when we were talking about taking the harm out of pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, I've been saying that for 20 years since we started. Well, even more, 23 years.
Well, I think that's going to be in the paper.
It should be. It's a great, and I could care less if it, you know, I'm not really stuck on quotes being mine or other people's. A great quote is a great quote, and that one's taking the harm out of pharmaceuticals and putting the farm back in. That's powerful stuff when you see the spelling and you realize what the person's saying. All right, someone in chat's already trademarked everything we just said. In fact, they're trademarking everything we say as we say it.
Just like in 2 weeks, like I'm gonna hear some brutal like regurgitation, like we got to take the barn out of pharmaceuticals and put the fun back. And what?
Oh fuck, that's funny shit. 11:11 in Vancouver right now.
I do want to say that it is unusual that where now when I go to different places, no matter where I go, no matter what situation it is, someone that like watches the show, I was like had this crazy ear infection where I couldn't be able to hear since the cup, so I can actually hear now. So I worked through it. I tried everything. I did it all. Everything you could imagine. Suction.
Ear candling?
Everything except the ear candling.
Oh, ear candling is pretty good.
You should have done it with cannabis lipids. If you ear candle with cannabis lipids, no harm.
No.
We should make cannabis candles.
I like it. The dude in chat's already trademarked it, and he's got them manufactured in China, and he's selling them on hempcandles.com already. So
fuck! It's not real cannabis wax. They've already China hemp the lipids. We're getting bad lipids in our candle earwax already, and it's only been 10 seconds.
Isn't that a perfect metaphor for life?
Yeah, but what's happened is, you know, the same where the idea can spring from. Hashurch becomes like a consumer's report. You know, we could all just gang up and shoot it down if we wanted to.
A consumer report. Well, in a sense, it is a consumer report because the one thing that I think people enjoy about Hashurch is that I think we try to have a good high integrity.
Yeah. But what I was saying earlier was like, no matter where I go, if somebody says, hey, are you Tony from Hashurch? And I'm like, geez, this Hashurch thing is getting really popular. You know, and I was in a Walmart and I couldn't even hear in my ear, and somebody came up to me and said that, and I was like, yeah. I was like, I don't even know what to say anymore because it's like Hashurch, you have somehow made Hashurch so popular. It used to be like 4 or 5 guys talking live and like 5 to 50 people like, hey, what's like listening, and you know, and then all of a sudden it was like you said, after Robert Clark came on, I think it took off pretty big.
Well, people are hungry for the knowledge, and we are very eager to share the knowledge fairly freely, really. I mean, it reminds me of the Jason Silva video, if you Google radical openness, and he's talking about the concept that truly we're practicing here in Hashurch, the way we're just bouncing ideas off each other and kind of expanding upon them, and he's talking about how these ideas eventually they have like virtual sex, and those ideas produce more baby ideas, and it's like this radical openness of like, it's just a cool concept. He's got a few good concepts. That and technology, like this technology, allowing us to increase our line of sight. And he talks about line of sight in a sense of empathy being connected to our line of sight, out of mind. How suffering can occur in the world when it's not in front of you. It's easier to accept and not really acknowledge it. But then you have this technology like the one we're using right now that is a prosthetic to our line of sight. It expands our line of sight greatly, and so now we're able to see and hear things that are going on in the world and sort of feel an empathy for them. Like when we hear that this Shona woman was in jail. I guess she's out on bail now, but still facing this beast. It's nice to have the technology to connect us in a way that allows us to do that. And I think a lot of people are looking to connect, and it's why there's 630 people watching right now and vibing off the conversation. Yeah, someone just wrote me, radical openness is truly breeding a revolution. And it's cool because the most recent book I read by K. Eric Drexler is called Radical Abundance, and it's mostly about nanotechnology, but it does really give you some unique point of views on that radical abundance that is really available to us at all times. Even though we're kind of stuck in this sort of ant mentality of how we need to get things done, our consciousness is about to take a hyper leap. And we may not be collecting things in the same way that we have been for the past several hundred or several thousand years, for that matter. Jason Silva, super inspirational. Check him out if you haven't seen him. I've been vibing out on his 2-3 minute videos lately, and telling you, the guys, I wanted to invite him on Hashurch. I Googled him, and then I saw Joe Rogan already had him on his podcast. I was like, no shit. I don't know if he puffs or if he's into cannabis as a medicine. It seems like he is. He's definitely into psychedelics being used as a prosthetic for the mind. Into the ocean. Archive. What's going on, Fletch?
Hey, how's it going? Oh, sorry, hold on.
What's going on, Fletch's dog?
Yeah, she's got her thing going on. Hold on.
That's church.
That's cool.
She's a good protection animal.
Dogs barking in Hashurch every once in a while. It's been known to happen.
How's everything going with you guys?
It's going pretty darn good. We've got a small group left today. It's been a nice, interesting conversation. We had the Chalice crew was in earlier, Todd and Trichome Technologies, Kay and Rob Clark and Etienne and Lauren. And I think Cuban came in, but he wasn't with them. He was going to go meet up with them. So definitely was feeling the vibes of Chalice. Be a nice event to be at for sure right now. It sounds like Dougie did a great job putting it together, or Dougie and his team did a great job putting it together, it sounds like.
Yeah, I'm glad to see an event that's not just weed-centric only, and it's doing glass art and other artists, and it's a little bit more music, a little bit more festival atmosphere, and I think that's a good thing for the scene.
Yeah, it really is. I wanted to say one thing. I got the privilege and honor of judging the non-solvent entries, and hey, there's some really good things in there. There were a lot of nice chirps, a lot of things that smelled real nice, a couple of ropes. This is a dope contest, kids. You don't need to put the CBD things in there. We don't need to muddle our minds, and we're trying to do some work, so you can leave those out next time. Much respect. We did them anyway, and that's it. But don't bother again next time. And really, I know it's not a hashish contest, but this is Hashurch. So let me explain something here. These were pretty nice extracts of terpenes. They were water hashes. They were insufficiently dried and smelled real nice, but they were all spoiling. They're doing what we call turning whitey. And when you live in a humid place like the Netherlands, it makes perfect sense that things get wet. When you're here in one of the most arid climates in northern America, really, guys, you got to dry your stuff out more. To me, what they were spoiling resin samples rather than hashish, by and large. And yeah, sorry about that, but I think if you really want to have a hashish contest, things should be pressed. You should make hashish. You shouldn't just shake some resin glands off of a plant. So I like what you're saying, that it's really diverse here. It's respecting lots of different things. There's awards for edibles. There's something for everybody here at Chalice. It's a great event. But yeah, the whole competition thing could be tightened up. And my first suggestion would just get rid of the buds. You know, that's the really nice herb samples, and some of the most honest and true and best things that were entered in a lot of ways, because they weren't adulterated, you know, or extracted or anything, however you want to see it. But much respect to the growers, more than just about anybody in it, and a lot of great extracts. I didn't look at the solvent stuff, but I heard a lot of reports. There's certainly plenty of it, but there's more solvent entries than there was weed, or bud entries, and there's way more bud entries than there were solventless entries, and there were more solventless than there were rosin. So the focus of this, when you walk around, is people are dabbing, and water, hash, or solvent oil or whatever, but it's a dab fest, and people are smoking joints, but they're old farts like me, and really it's a different thing, and it's kind of confusing to have all the weed and judges expected to judge this. Like, judges got a quarter pound of weed, kids. I mean, this is crazy. It's like, fine, fantastic, wow, roll around in it, take a bath, whatever. But it's kind of over the top for somebody trying to judge something. So I took the littlest work, and there's plenty of it. So yeah, just things to think about. It's upscale, and it's.
Did you do solventless?
Mm-hmm.
You're doing solventless judging?
Yeah, I did the solventless thing. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a thing that we've talked a lot about, the different situations of the drying of the water hash, and I'm glad that you mentioned the temperature and the climate there, because often in this conversation, the problem is you'll get someone from like the Netherlands or from the Pacific Northwest talking, oh, you got to really, you got to dry your hash properly, it's got to be done like this, it's good to use a desiccant, and you got someone like in this super arid, like dry-ass climate like the desert in like New Mexico or Southern California or whatever, and you get people telling you that, no, you don't need to do that, this shit dries right away. And it was only in the last 5 to 10 years, really, that I started sort of telling people, listen, you're not doing anyone a favor by telling them how to dry their hash for your specific region if you don't even know where their region is. Don't give advice to someone to dry hash if you're from the desert and they're from the Pacific Northwest. They're going to have to dry it differently.
Well, these people are like largely from the desert who entered this.
Yeah.
And still, stuff's spoiling. They don't take the time. Frenchie can always write about everything he's saying, pretty much. Okay, it's the old hippie road warrior explanation of it, but you throw a little science spin on what Frenchie says, he's got it all right. If you want to make something to smoke, you make something to smoke. If you want to make something to vaporize on a nail, great. I mean, why process it anymore? I get it, but it's not. Wasn't really intended to be, but maybe should be a hashish contest instead of a resin preparation contest. It's just really what it is. Out of the samples I had, one could be pressed into a piece of hash. Uno, solamente uno. This is not that great.
Wow, they caked out bad, huh?
Yeah, it's all whitey, man. It was all of it. And I got.
Can I also say, Rob, when you say this,
they had them for up to 2 weeks before I got them, so I'm not. Maybe the people who entered them can't be responsible for everything, but if there's a lot of, they were trying to do too much, I think is all I'm saying.
Well, Rob, do you think the culture's changed? Basically, people are chasing the smell of grapes that are just rotting and going, ooh, that's a fine wine, and don't actually go through the process to develop a fine wine. They've lost sight of what a fine wine is, and everyone's just chasing basically just rotting grapes, because just before they turn to poison, they're at their most technically aromatic. So it sounds like everyone's chasing a product that doesn't actually exist because it's just not rotted enough to be harmful yet. But it's like everyone's chasing a time bomb now versus creating a product that
exactly
lasts.
Yeah. What they're not doing is creating a product. And as we overproduce, products will have to be created. You'll have to stock stuff. You'll have to have a steady stream of whatever commodity you're dealing in that comes from cannabis. You can't do this up and down thing and run a business. I wouldn't think. I'm not a businessman, but you got to have stuff that can be stored for a while, and you need to know how to store it. And you can't have stuff that your vendors have to keep in a freezer. I mean, come on now. It's not ice cream, you know.
Is Todd spanking on camera? I'm so confused at the background behind you. I'm focused on you.
Oh! They're waiting. I just turned around at the door. They're waiting for me to go, so I think they're computing.
It's a Hashurch first.
We're out of here. We're getting kinky. See you down there, huh?
Have a great day, guys.
Hello.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you at Hashurch. Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you, everybody. It's a pleasure. It's an honor. We'll see y'all later on. Much love. See you next week.
Thanks, guys. Awesome. Awesome.
I saw Addison in the airport, and then right when he was leaving, we were talking about all kinds of stuff. He's like, "Hey, did you guys enter in the non-solvent?" And I was like, "No." And he was like, "Yeah, I didn't think so." I was like, "Why? Were you a judge?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "It was okay. It was okay." He's like, "I didn't think you guys entered." I was like, "Nope, we didn't."
Well, you know what? It's a tough thing too, because it's like you're attracting a certain. I mean, it's why Cuban is such an anomaly, and why he can. Very few people will take the best of the best and enter it into a contest. You really have to like want to win that contest to like do that kind of work, grow that many plants, and produce that beautiful resin that you could literally like. I mean, I don't know, like just from my perspective, I know it's definitely like a business thing. You want to build your brand and you want to, but it's like when the whole industry, the amount of contests that happen every fucking week, it seems, it's a lot of resin that people are just giving up to be judged. Like an incredible amount.
I agree. And to go off of what Rob was saying with, running the contest correctly, and essentially like we talked about before, having like a consultant who's an expert like Rob or whoever to kind of decipher the entries, because it's becoming to that point that for just your average consumer, it's hard to even know sometimes what you're even consuming. I mean, rosin looks like BHO. It's like where if you're trying to judge something and you're not a hash maker or don't have tons of experience, like I don't know a lot about wine. I don't know the differences between a lot of different types of wine. You shouldn't have me, even though I may enjoy wine a lot, you shouldn't have me be a judge at a real wine contest that's for people around the world to judge and nitpick. I don't know enough. I don't have enough experience, and I think that's one thing we're seeing as well. And also with the whiting out, I mean, I saw all the entries from San Francisco only a week after the event, and every single sample was buttered out, dry sift included. So, I mean, it's not, I think it's also how things are handled, how people handle it in the process, all that stuff. And it's not, I think the having not necessarily rules and regulations for the judging, but rules and regulations for handling of the products and the entries and all that stuff should be maybe more well defined.
Yep, no, I agree with that for sure. I mean, I see people all the time with. It took me I spent over 10 years trying to teach people how to not press wet bubble together, like over 10 years, really promoting and trying to explain to people, listen, you can't. You're going to get this buttered out product. I saw it time and time and time again, and I'm now even seeing it in people's rosin. People are like, oh yeah, my rosin only stays stable, and then it turns to butter. I'm like, your rosin turns to butter? They're like, oh yeah, the rosin turns to butter. And I'm like, I made this over a month ago with D420K, and it's still pull and snap. It's been out. I don't keep it in anything. I've taken it on a plane, and I've come to Manitoba where it's humid as fuck. It was 30 degrees Celsius the other day, and the humidity made it 40 degrees. To give you an idea of what kind of humidity we're dealing with. It's like tropical. You walk outside, and it smacks you in the face. And I've had this sitting outside for like hours next to my D-nail by my mom's pool, taking dabs, and it's still stable. It's still pull and snap taffy. So, I don't know. It'll be an interesting thing that we'll be talking about for a while, and to learn whether it's terpene. I think the majority of the time it's water. That doesn't mean it can't be terpenes, or it can't be, you know, a particular weird resin that really absorbs water at an unnormal rate, and it just is buttering out even in its own jar. But I am also of the mentality that keep a little in your freezer if you want to preserve it. But if you're going for a more Frenchy style, if you want to produce a smoke, if you want to cure something and alter the terpene profile to alter the cannabinoid profile, then you have to leave it out. It's not ever going to cure in a fridge. Can we all agree upon that?
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I think a lot of the time it is water, for sure. But I also think that I've seen a lot of really nice hash that I know has been sitting out for, 3, 4, 5 weeks in a 25% humidity, 30% humidity, 55 or 60 degree room, and you put a gram of that in a little container, put it in your pocket, take it out. Next day it's turned to butter. And that that hash had been drying under what most people do in a real drying room, real cold curing room, for over a month. Open air, not on a drying rack. So I mean, it's one of those things that's was that properly dried or not? Well, I mean, if it's been sitting out for 5 weeks, I mean, if you have to start waiting a year to smoke your hash, which is like going back to what Rob was saying about a real hash is an old cured hash from a hashish producing region of the there is a difference maybe between hashish and, let's say, a fresh hash, or are we chasing freshness essentially at this point?
Well, keep in mind too, these guys,
sense of cured, right?
These hash makers were drying their material for a long time. So when we say we dried our hash for 5 weeks, these guys might say, well, I dried the weed for 6 months before I made hash with it.
Right, right.
And so that's a different level of dry, and I think that's where that membrane, that wax membrane with the moisture content comes into play, because I know when I take a macro photograph, when it looks like a water balloon stretched out just full, that's when it's the most photogenic. When I dry it properly, it shrivels up like a grape, and it still has flavor, it still has potency, it still has full effect. It's just, and that's the stuff like that I brought to Amsterdam last year, the sweet skunk dry sift. If you looked under a microscope, it looked like little kind of shriveled up raisins. They definitely didn't look like perfect orbs. They had been dried very well.
And that's kind of like the what the freeze dryer does essentially, because we never end up planing it or sieving or anything. It kind of has a similar process. Or result on the resin, in that it's really drying it out of anything that will evaporate under the temperatures and vacuum pressure that it's being dried at. And that's definitely a big factor. But I would also argue that we've done batches where we take the material, dry it regular, and dry the other half of the batch in the freeze dryer. And the freeze dryer definitely destroys some terps if you let it dry fully until it's completely raisined out and it's just like powder no matter what you do to it. And is it stable? Well, I guess, but it won't press out anymore. So we're having really interesting results with the freeze dryer and just what a quote unquote really dry hash is, right? Because I mean, technically a freeze dryer should be about as close to getting fully dry or evaporating all water type solubles in the hash from it. A vacuum and a freeze drying process is pretty efficient in doing that.
What temperature are you freeze drying at? Like -50 or even?
Yeah, I think it goes to -40, and we've put a thermometer inside the unit as it goes through the drying process, because it has heaters inside of the frozen chamber that when they turn on, it causes, and it's under vacuum, it causes the water to sublimate. So what we're seeing is that the hash is getting really dry as a result of that, and it's actually like buttering out in the thing on its own.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So,
interesting.
I think as more people buy a freeze dryer and start messing with it, especially how it reacts with all kinds of different products. Let's say you take some really, really fresh dry sift that you just separated and put that in the freeze dryer and then clean it again later, because now that was resin that was too wet or too moist to work with before, or not dry enough, so to speak.
Yeah.
So, like you guys are saying, I think it's we're chasing freshness. We're trying to make hash with as fresh of resin as possible, in an attempt to preserve terpenes, I suppose, but to what benefit other than flavor?
Well, that's it. And I had this conversation with Rob last year in Amsterdam, and he kind of hinted, like almost like a devil's advocate, but really just being like, hey, it could just as easily be true that one of the reasons these old school guys have appreciation for that aged hash, because the terpenes that are lost in the aging are meant to be lost. They're too harsh and caustic. They're too volatile. When you hit those ones, they're like, Whereas it's like you get some of these hashes, and I've experienced it myself, so I can understand, a hash that is so tasty and so incredible, but smooth on the exhale and doesn't like turn you red. Like nowadays, people just associate coughing and turning red as a normal thing with taking a rip. But we are smoking resin fresher than we ever have before, and what we're smoking fresher than we ever have before are those terpenes. So we just have to be aware that could go either way. It could be an extremely beneficial thing. It could be like, oh, actually, you know what? Some of those more caustic terpenes should be allowed to volatilize out into the air and then just, leave this. And I've seen it with strains, I'm sure you guys know, where it's got a certain smell when it's still moist, and as that moisture is lost, then the smell changes. But then even that bud or hash can change smell over the course of time once a certain group of terpenes are gone. Once they volatilize, these other ones underneath are able to sort of bloom out, where you're like, wow, I never even smelled that smell before, but yet there it is now that this strain has been allowed to cure a little bit longer.
Yeah, definitely agree with you there. That I think the presence and quantity of terpenes, period, and what kind of terpenes, and quite possibly even rare cannabinoids that we don't even really know about yet, and a high concentration of those could potentially be the culprit of a lot of the buttering, with water being the main culprit, but also, if something's hygroscopic and it's pulling moisture from the air surrounding it, not hydrophilic in the case where you'd be making water hash and direct contact would transfer water, but like, for example, with dry sift, we definitely get dry sift that butters out, and that's just, it's dry enough to sift, but it's not dry enough to sit in a jar.
Would you also consider that modern nutrients are also a big thing that plays a role in the resins changed with the new experimental, hey, we can feed a plant this and it'll stay in the plant and raise its weight, and we'll call it bud booster, but it really is just residuals we found a way to accumulate in a plant to up its weight. Like, there's so many new wacky sciences being applied to something, even in just the last 5 years versus 10 years ago, where I just grew this on horse shit and the good old, and it came out amazing. And I think that also is playing a role in these commercial strains. Everyone's doing the same thing, and it's now all going wacky against physics, you can almost say.
Well, we do 100% raw organics up here in Washington, where it's from crab meal, fishbone meal, kelp meal, fish hydrolysate, all that kind of stuff. No bottle nutrients at all. And that hasn't really had a huge impact. I would say even that herb, because it's higher in terpenes, ends up buttering the fastest if you process fresh material from it. Because like when I used to run GH3 part in like the Omega Gardens and Coliseums and stuff like that, that herb was always the meltiest hash, meltiest trim, most stable bubble hash. Because that was back in the dry it on cardboards and chop it with a razor blade days 10 years ago, having full melt just to the same quality that we're making today. But I noticed that the more synthetic nutrients and the lower concentration of terpenes usually meant a more stable and meltier hash even with less residue. But that was pre nail vaping. That was, you know, lighter on a screen, which with some really melty hashes makes them leave more residue than they would if you were vaporizing them on a nail. I've definitely had that experience.
I think Horatio hit it on the head with all these strange nutrients, and when I really saw it with my own eyes for the first time, because I'm sure I had seen it through dry sifting and wet washing and trying to understand. It didn't take me long to figure out that there was no point in washing commercial product because it was just that mersh. It was Reggie's. It was terrible. It was that badly grown, deeply affected by the poor quality nutrients, and just producing a resin head that is more like a Tootsie Pop with a thick coating and a tiny, tiny little goodness in the middle, rather than that water balloon metaphor where the balloon is stretched super thin and it's just full. Those are the wax membranes that, in my opinion, are the easiest to dry. And then the thicker ones that are literally like the whole head is almost a wax membrane. It seems like they're growing wax more than they're growing cannabinoid profiles and terpene profiles. It just, it causes this uber buttering effect that's just not.
So, Tony, what would you say now with the solventless revolution? Everybody's compacting and compressing and basically using heat to rejumble and press through a mechanical separation. All of these different factors that, for instance, so solventless hash oil has no thing like winterizing, which tends to expose a grower's faux pas. And like I see, if I didn't have that, how the hell would I see all these different nutrients that have showed up in my filters? I don't want a certain generation of people to think it's some moral free pass that anything made in an SHO process is automatically holistic.
Oh, yeah.
Because obviously people are going to look for, it's going to be this, ooh, there's a holistic market. I wonder what I can source. The key is to tell them it's heat pressed and it's all good. It's that color, well, it's natural. It's all natural what's happening. And you know, it's worse. Bubble shows it in the water. There's a test that water reveals. But with the heat press method, what would be your, you know, what have you seen when things didn't go your way that you'd say, hey, everybody, if your screen ever accumulates this pasty material, watch out for something I know. Anything like that showing up in mechanical separation?
Yeah, so it's even more stringent on a press system. So whatever you're putting into your plant, or whatever the condition of your plants are, it's going to, when you say quality in, quality out, it shows it even more. So you have less leniency in pressing, in my opinion. And so you have to test things for mold visually with HPLC. You have to go through different types of understanding if it's indoor versus outdoor. Go through the testing, the molds, pesticides, inspections before you go through all that stuff. If you know you're working with a good grower or you're self-growing and you flush it properly and it's organic, then that's the whole point of why you want to press things out, because you want to live to a certain gold standard, if you will, of growing, because then the pressing actually comes out proper. So it's like gold in, gold out. It's the same old saying, and it's going to show up even more. There's no curve this time, you know, like when you press it out. So you could do double screens. You know, on hydrocarbon extract machines, they have a 50 micron. So, you know, we've got 40 microns, 20 microns. You could double wrap, triple wrap, things like that, just to be on the safe side, which is why I was telling you earlier we were doing 2. So if you did a 120 and a 45, you're doing pretty good as far as filtering, you know. But yeah, if you see something like very like smells really odd or weird, or there's a slimy look to the, like just the same thing on the rosin, if it gets like a weird, like if you ever seen, I'll tell you what it would look like. If you've ever seen a boat and you're trolling or fishing on a lake, and there's that oil film that's coming off from your boat that's on the water.
The same stuff the pigeons are always walking in the curb.
Yeah. Yeah, but this is like in the back of the boat. You know what I'm talking about when you see you're just kind of just barely idling, and you shut it off.
Yeah, 2-stroke oil. Yeah.
Two-stroke oil. That's it.
Yeah.
The two-stroke oil is just sitting there on the top of the ocean. Everybody's fine with it, and you're like fishing, and you see it going through your line. You're like, I don't know if that's like really that cool. That oil right there can show up in your rosin if you're doing big batches. If you see like an oil slick that's something that's like a light blue versus your contract of something dark or something else that's there, then you know it's bad. And then you have the same test that you would. I mean, it's going to melt, but if you try it on a nail or something, or on your D-nail or whatever, and and you see like something's weird, or it smokes weird, or it smells weird, same thing. Now, the interesting thing is, like I said earlier, I'm working with somebody that like we can take it to this level, and then we could try to take it to another level, winterizing it and doing other things with it. So we're working with that right now to see what happens.
Well, I've seen that same phenomenon with like an oil slick on the top of the water when you make bubble. But I mean, I know I mean, we've always grown all our own product. I know it wasn't sprayed with anything during its flowering cycle at all. Not any kind of pesticide or anything at all. I mean, our whole thing with growing is to never even touch the plant once it's initiated flowering, other than, training some branches and putting them in the net. Otherwise, I mean, if I see someone come in to my room and they grab a bud and like grab it like that and bend it over or something, oh, it makes me cringe. I'm just like, you just destroyed that thing and put it all over your hand. Like, grab one little like sugar leaf and rub it and smell it. Like, don't rape my plants here.
Yeah, because that finger oil is like two-stroke.
Yeah, well, and that's something that I've also seen in the past is that, if you have a garden that produces large fat nuggets, someone goes in and essentially destroys some cells on your top nugget. It can be a source of causing mold by handling the plant harsh like that. I mean, it'd be the same thing as like bruising a fruit while it's on the tree. It's going to cause that part of the plant to start to degrade quicker and potentially mold sooner, especially once the coliforms and becomes large. And like you're talking about concerns with my biggest concern with flower rosin is pesticides and chemicals used during the flowering process. I mean, phospholode, which has diminozide and paclobutrazol in it. Both diminozide was outlawed in 1998 by the USDA, which they outlaw barely anything against use on apple crops, because at pasteurization temperatures it turned parts of apples into a carcinogen that could potentially give children cancer, and they pulled it off the market. It's still used widely on trees to halt their growth so that they don't like encroach on your home, but they're not used on food products. Products like Gravity, Snowstorm, Phospholode, there's a whole host of like what they call kelp stuff, but it's really just got these flower hardener chemicals in it. And I mean, I'd say 80+% of the OG Kush grown in LA that I know, if not way more, is grown using phospholode. And I mean, to like rosin that stuff at 300+ degrees, which is a higher temperature than pasteurization, to me is like a major health concern, period. I mean, you're squishing something that's full of this chemical that was meant to harden and make this bud larger, and now you're going to squeeze the actual plant material. Now, harvesting the resin from that and making rosin, I'm still concerned about it, but not as much as actually pressing the plant material.
Because you're decontaminating that leaf surface area that's storing the majority of it, so you already fraction it down.
Exactly.
That's kind of why everybody's given it SHO a moral pass, to the point that I couldn't make a contest because I didn't. They're like, oh, we got to do solvent testing, and it's due tomorrow. And I'm like, I heard about the contest today. I'm sorry, I passed. Oh, but, solventless entries like, rosin, we don't test that stuff. And I'm like, do you understand? I know the loophole now? Fuck off.
Yeah.
You know what happens when people clean their screens to reuse them with ISO? It's under the same scrutiny. It's not some holier than thou. Just because it's an everyman solution, no one knows anything about heat in that way, and Tony's, you know, gold in, gold out helps him hold himself back from, you could say, the anomalies that are the world. But people watch Hashurch, they get pumped, oh man, I'm going to make some CBN. The first sign of black stuff, I'm good to go, I'm helping the world. And I'm like, well, you could just be producing another RSO just horizontally in a steam press, and RSO is making people barf night and day because the contaminants are the triggers that are upsetting people. It's not the cannabinoids. So I get weary of the fact that we're in that fortunate group that would never, it gets filtered out. But the populace is going to be like, yeah, did you hear that shit? Man, I'm going to go to that dispensary with, you know, those $75 ounces and load up and get 5 dudes and rosin the shit out of some stuff. We're healing people. It starts to go back to that we healing people mentality.
And that's supposed to be healthier, and it's not necessarily like
Well,
you're saying.
I would like to add that if you're going to make CBN, notice I did it with bubble hash, so like it was already.
Exactly. That's how I'm like, sometimes I'm like, we need to long format the why. So I'm like, explain the things that have fucked up that you wouldn't talk about, and you weed it out in the beginning, because those little triggers, like, I don't like that swivel, it ain't right. You may filter out that guy, but someone goes, oh, my shit has that, oh my god, and it's an important day for them in their consumption of cannabis.
Well, and I think it's also important is how intimate are you to the resin. So like when we're working with people in North California where they're members, you know, and MTG is one of them, and they're you know, you look at, okay, how are we growing this, what's going into it, and you only work with other people that are, like right now we're just doing sun resin or LD outdoor or greenhouse, you know, things that are as organic as we can start with. Otherwise, you're right. Yeah, if you're spraying your plant at all or anything that's, you know, it could be bad. It could be real bad. And then the most important thing is you do need to test that rosin oil, because like when you're making, you know, 500 grams of rosin oil, let's say SHO, and I'm just specifically wanting that for edibles or capsules, then you have to do more testing on that. So you have to test that, see what's in it, see if there's any pesticides, see if there's any molds, test it for any solvents, test it for everything you can before you would use it. That's super important. You know, and that's why things, a lot of times people don't understand why medicine takes a long time to get on the shelf. That's another reason, because sometimes you go through everything and you get testing, and let's say you don't have solvents or anything, but let's say your test result was different. You're like, huh, that's a physical weird anomaly, and then you try to wait 5 days and retest it again in another way, and you're like, okay, now I got a different result. You know, and then you're like, all right, one says 50%, one says 70%. You can't make medicine that way. And then you go, okay, let's try, you know, that's what's going on all the time, because we don't have the full access, like in Colorado, in my opinion, to super accurate testing. They're way off from each other. They're not 6%. They're like 20%, 10% at best. So I think that's like a huge part of it. And, you know, that's why I said I'm working with somebody, because we've got access to some different kinds of equipment that we can get a little bit more accurate readings from. So I'm interested to do those kind of things, you know. The testing is really the future of like how you're going to look at stuff.
Yeah, I mean, to go off what you guys are saying, I mean, you know, testing is going to be the thing, because now that we're at concentrates, just because it looks the same doesn't mean it is, you know, in terms of products. You know, there's a lot of gold oil that's made from complete trash material. I've seen it, and people pay a lot of money for stuff just because visually it catches their eye, not because they know that it's clean. I mean, you know, I don't think rosin made from powdery mildew herb is going to be any better for you than BHO made from powdery mildew herb. That much I can probably guarantee.
I fear it's worse because you added the damn heat.
Worse, exactly, because you're using heat and temperature and introducing water to that microorganism as well through the process. So, I mean, you know, just because someone else says it's better doesn't mean you shouldn't ask the question how and why yourself.
Yeah. I thought, so what temp doesn't not, on PM, let's see here, I remember talking about this a while ago. Powdery mildew. At a certain temperature, like a boiling point, I think you actually kill off the powdery mildew.
Right, but are there any toxins that are residual from the presence of that microorganism, which in case of fungi and bacteria there often are, as a result of their byproducts and waste products of that organism living on your material?
So the melting point for powdery mildew, I think it was 100 degrees Celsius. Let me see.
Right, but if it just kills the pathogen, that's not really what I'm as concerned about. You know?
No, well, there you go. If it's 100 Celsius and people are pressing out 180F, which is 89.
That's also on hash, though. That's also on hash. That's not on flowers. People are pressing at 300 degrees plus on flowers.
But is the flower actually reaching 300 degrees, or are we just using a 300-degree press to enact enough pressure and heat quick enough to push it out?
Steaming it out with the water for sure.
Right. So I mean, it's not you're not necessarily getting to 300 degrees just because you're using a 300-degree iron. You know, just like if I put a chicken in the oven at 350 doesn't mean it's going to be 350 in 5 seconds. It's going to take an hour.
Well, what if you were actually making activated oil though, and you threw it in an oven for 140 degrees Celsius for
Well, that's a better standard for decontamination. But that's not what people are running out to rosin for. It's to get a new market and a new holy grail, holier than now industry of moral high ground. Well, it's all these new BHO makers are like, I know, I'll be able to make rosin and then I'll be able to get a different aspect of that market. But it's the same ethic. It's the same. Very few people have the fortune to even interact with the growers. So the majority of producers are dealing with a middleman who basically passes on bag names.
No,
and
absolutely.
takes no responsibility for what he puts forward.
Okay, the effects of the substance on human health. I know it affects autoimmune, but in this, it's talking about no carcinogen effects. No effects exposure were documented. Mild alkaline irritation of the respiratory system, coughing, sneezing, possible breathing difficulty in acute cases. Mild eye irritant, possible reddening due to alkaline effects or abrasion. No LD50 information found relating to normal routes of occupational exposure.
It's a whole different thing that doesn't represent, I guess, inhalation though.
I get really bad
to concentrate and blast that into one's lungs is a whole different scenario. And basically, my asthma lungs.
Yeah, so then you have to get into, and I'm not trying to build a case for people that have powdery mildew by any case, but just on the devil's advocate, you know, your nail or anything else is going to be over 100 degrees Celsius. So if you're looking at what would be the where you would have to like really concern yourself is when you're saying, so this is also like if you look at flowers, right? So if you're just smoking flowers versus a concentrate, you're then when you concentrate something, whether it's BHO or rosin, you're going that 10 to 1. You know, you're taking 10 grams of something and making 1 gram of it. So then you're exponentially increasing those symptoms. And I know that for patients that have autoimmune and respiratory conditions or asthma, like if you have asthma and that gets into your lungs at a concentrated form, that could be death. That could be the end of you, for sure. So I don't know why this little identification from the USDA doesn't have that, but they don't have inhalation on it.
No, well, they don't have, I mean, because the thing is, the way they test for a lot of things, and they're like, well, it's safe. And it's like, well, what if I concentrated down the mystery oil and then inhaled that? Oh, well, there's no test for inhaling mystery oil in a concentrated way. It's just like people go, butane is safe. I'm like, well, it's not tested for making inhalable products because dabbing is not something that typically is recognized as a way to ingest medicine. Compared to an inhaler filled with steroids and other things as a way to inhale.
Yeah, the only thing you can look at on that is a lighter utilizing the same thing. So I think a lighter is like they range from like as low as 5 parts per million up to 10 or 15 parts per million, and I think there's a safety on that too on this.
So I'm reading a little thing on Skunk Farm Research, which I'm sure most of you guys are familiar with his stuff. You know, I don't have that much knowledge about toxins produced by spores and things like that, but he's saying, you know, mold spores are the principal source of allergic reactions, but allergic reactions aside, some of the molds produce aflatoxins that attack our central nervous system and livers. Mold material can easily be removed by filtration, but filtration doesn't remove whatever those aflatoxins are. So, you know, I think it's the same thing in that type of scenario. You know, it depends on what mold it is, and I mean, you know, powdery mildew, we're still not even sure what species that is. No one's even figured out what species it is that's inhabiting the cannabis plant. There's thousands of species of powdery and downy mildew, both of which look pretty much the same on the surface of the plant, but do not infect the same species and don't have the same, you know, climates that they live in. I mean, I've grown plants outside here in Washington with blackberry thickets and cucumber plants and stuff covered in some type of powdery downy mildew. I have this like red fire tree in the backyard that has a powdery downy mildew that it has every season, and we don't get PM. We don't treat for PM. We don't have to because we've eradicated it ever from any tissue, and we don't use sulfur burners or Eagle 20 or anything like that unless I'm like paranoid about someone that came over and I'm like, I gotta burn some sulfur in the bedroom because this dirty guy came over and smoked some weed in my house. So, you know, I think depending on what mold it is and you know, what all the stuff, all that kind of stuff, it's going to have a bigger influence about what, when you're pressing with rosin, BHO, what type of toxins or what might come out of it and how that can be harmful to your health.
Well, I think it's a super important dialogue and one that I definitely want to continue here on Hashurch. I unfortunately have to go now, but potentially next week we can start out with this very conversation. The topic, that worrisome topic of what contaminants are being pressed into the rosin from the cannabis or from the hash. And I think it's definitely a good thing to look into. The more we promote this as a medicine, the more we promote this as a health benefit, the more we should raise the standards to making sure that everyone has a good solid pathway to the information so that they can make or acquire and know what is safe and what is not safe. Awesome to see you guys all in the car. Thanks for coming. I literally have to race off right now in the car with my family as well. So thanks for watching Hashurch, everyone. Sorry that it was such a short one this week, but family calls. Have fun in Chalice, everyone. Thanks for coming in, Tony, Horatio, Casey, and Archive, Fletch. Always a pleasure. We will see you all very soon. Happy Hashurching.